Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3, The Game, streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook Live. We are live today from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios. You know, a lot of radio hosts, for some reason, Ian, they like take forever to get their show started. You know, that's not really our style around here. But I got too caught up talking to Adam and Derek.
Yeah, a bunch of yelling.
Well, it wasn't yelling. It was actually, there was a little yelling. But there was actually, I'd say, more agreeing than you would think.
I'm proud of you.
I told Derek, though, I walked in here, I said, Derek, you're becoming too much of a homer for me. Derek says that he's not being a homer. I'm just saying.
At least you didn't call him a loser like you did Chris last week.
I said that they like to lose. That's what I said, not that they were losers. You know, speaking of that, by the way, when Chris Sanders got mad about how he was like, I'm not a loser. Chris Sanders in that same interview said he was like, I've been on some horrible teams. And I went and looked it up. The worst team he was on was 7-9. He's never been on a team like this. Derek, now I know he was with the Rex Ryan Jets for a second, so maybe he played for like 6 games with a horrible team. He's never been on a team that is this bad. So I gotta, give Brian Callahan a little credit for a second, and then I gotta, kind of say, hold on now. The first thing is Brian Callahan yesterday with the media gave a little clap back. He's getting peppered with all these questions, and, it's not Vrabel, chief a-hole, but it is, a little pushback on, what people are saying. And, people are saying, hey, is this team getting any better? Is this what's going on? This is what Brian Callahan said about the positive things going on with the football team yesterday ahead of this week's game against Minnesota.
I think we've done things. We're getting better sort of under the surface, and I know everyone judges on wins and losses, but there's a lot of things that are really positive for me as a coach, and as I look at our locker room and how we do things, and the way guys approach their work, and the intensity that they approach it with, and what it's like every day in the building. Those things are all really where you hope they would be, and we got to find ways to translate those things into wins and losses. But I see a lot of really positive things that no one's going to want to hear when I stand up here, but that's not really my concern. I'm concerned with the guys in the building and where we're at, and I feel really good about that part of it. And we just have to keep coming and keep making improvements and trying to find a way to win some more games.
Okay. I kind of like the little clap back there from Callahan, right? Where he's like, look, these are things that nobody outside of here is going to care about, but I care about what's going on inside this building, and things are going well. Good for you, Brian Callahan. So I do like that. Show a little bark in the dog. No problem with that. Stand up a little bit. I like it. But at the same time, what was he just telling all of us? There are positive things behind the scenes that we don't see that are going on with this football team. And when I heard that, while I was happy for him to show a little pushback, flex a little muscle, at the same time, I'm like, this is what's perpetuating this bullcrap cycle that I talk about every week, that sets people up on Friday to think that the Titans are going to turn a corner or that they're going to win a meaningful football game. And then, bam, 1:13 Sunday afternoon, ass-kicking Central, downtown Nashville, Tennessee, right by the river. And you want to know how bad the Titans have been this year, as Brian Callahan talks about? We're doing some positive things. You all don't see it, but we're doing some positive things. Do you want to know how bad it is? I looked it up yesterday. The Titans' record against the spread, which means, the Vegas line. If the line is 3 points, let's say it's Vikings by 3 and the Titans lose by 2, that technically counts as a win for the Titans against the spread. The Titans are 1-8 this year against the spread. So that means that every single game they've played, except the Miami game, they have lost by more or won by less than they were expected to. That's awful. Last year, they were 7-9-1 against the spread. So they're 1-8 against the spread this year. They were 7-9-1 last year. If they end up getting beaten, Ian, do we know what the line is on Sunday? I think it's 8, right, Minnesota?
I actually have not seen. I will check right now.
I think it's 8, but I could be wrong. If they lose by 14 points to Minnesota, they will have matched the amount of times that they did not cover for the season. And they've been pretty much an underdog in every single game. They've been favored to win 3 times this year, and they're 1-2 in games they're favored. They suck.
I
What's the
see
line?
Minnesota -6 on the ESPN app here.
Free money. Lay it down on the Vikings -6. Dun, 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 dun. Vikings -6. I guarantee it. Put that down. So again, you're 1-8 against the spread. You're 1-2 in games you're favored. What's this super secret positive change that Brian Callahan's talking about? I like Brian Callahan when he says, hey, things in the building are the way they're supposed to be, and that will equal winning. I want to believe him because I like him. But then on one hand, I'm like, yeah, that might be a good sign. And then I'm like, but does it mean anything? Does it mean anything to us? And then it's like, well, they're doing the positive things in the building. They're working hard. They're playing hard. Did we think they had an effort problem under Mike Vrabel or an effort problem under Mike Mularkey? I didn't think that they ever had an effort problem under Vrabel. I mean, Vrabel's going to go take another job next year, and I promise you that team will be ready to play on Sunday. But again, this is the problem with the Titans. This is the toxic positivity that I think they've got to iron out of the building. It's okay to be a little mean. It's okay to admit, hey, this stuff, we've had to make changes around here. We didn't think it'd be this way, but we're going to try our hardest. And he says some of that. But again, this whole I see it and you don't. And I know nobody's going to care about this, but what I see, that's the good stuff. That's like the made-up girlfriend from camp or the one who goes to another school. By the way, a buddy of mine got a new girlfriend. And so, naturally, I asked him, I was like, so what's her Instagram? Because obviously I'm going to go a girlfriend at another school. Or he said, or saying that you have a girlfriend from Canada. I was like, whoa now. I was like, whoa now, those things do exist. But again, when we're talking about this, hey, the things I see that you don't see, they're positive signs for the football team. I mean, it's time to see that stuff. And what's crazy about seeing it is it doesn't have to be a win. Like, I know everybody wants to win on Sunday, period. And when you miss a field goal and lose a game by 2 points, we'll sit down and spend a whole week analyzing why they lost the game. But if they make the field goal and they win it by 1 point, on Monday, everybody in town will be elated and talking about the Super Bowl. That is usually what happens, and I get it. But right now, that's not necessarily what has to happen. They don't have to win for us to see things that would be positive signs. They're not going to win on Sunday, but it's the way they play. Because it's okay to show improvement by losing a game that is, close. A cover. Getting the line 6 points. All these NFL games are almost always decided by a field goal. The line 6 points. Is it that hard to cover? Like that would show some progress if they cover this week against Minnesota. So on one hand, I'm thinking good for you, Brian Callahan. Push back on the narratives. And when somebody says, something that they're not going to like, say, I don't care. I'm going to say it anyways. That's fine. You tell them. But again, is it too much to ask that we see some of that on Sunday? That instead of us taking your word for it and just assuming, Brian Callahan says that, things really are starting to turn a corner and, that gets me excited about it. And I think my football team, can we ask that you win a little bit? And again, a win for the Titans doesn't necessarily have to be a win. Can you just cover? Can you just keep the game close? Can you give us a game like Sundays against the Chargers or this coming Sunday against the Vikings where nobody thinks you're going to win, but you in the fourth quarter have a shot and we're like, wow, boy, they played it tough. Because then that would demonstrate to everybody that you actually are seeing progress. But I guess that might be too much to ask. 615-737-1025, which is our phone number on the program if you want to weigh in. That's 615-737-1025. So yesterday, I said something about Brian Callahan's comments on Will Levis, or I guess I said this on Tuesday, but yesterday, I think some of the things I said got a little misconstrued. And I'm not mad at the people that misunderstood it. I actually think I didn't do a very good job communicating it. So I want to clear up exactly what I meant. We'll do it next. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. Stillman and Company, 1025-1063 The Game.
But, like, can I just say, he actually had a segment where, like, because Brian Callahan just answered honest questions about Levis and like he always does, which is good. And, like, he criticized him because he didn't lie, basically, which is such a telling on yourself thing for Stilly. Like you actually, like, he missed an opportunity to lie and to overinflate what Levis did so that we could all finally rip him and be like, oh, so Brian Callahan has become dishonest now, as opposed to honest like he's been his entire time. I mean, it's, again, such a tell on yourself moment.
And then
by Still.
if he came out, he says, oh, I don't know what I'd do. Yes, you do. If he came out and pumped up Levis off of that game, Stillman would have gone crazy.
But
about how can you pump up this guy off one game? It's meaningless. It was 175 yards, which is nothing. Blah, blah, blah.
You're probably right,
so
but that
nonsense.
doesn't bother me. What bothers me is, again, like, we're supposed to be honest. We're supposed to say what we actually think, not create narratives and lie. So if you think he should do that, Jared, what are you doing?
Yeah. Oh, that's all he does.
There you go. Joe and Paulie Paul getting all worked up about what I said on Tuesday. And let me say this. I don't think I did a very good job communicating what I was saying and meaning and anything. I'm not mad at Paul or Joe or saying that, hey, they went after me. They made up some bull crap to go out. I'm not saying that. Again, I'm going to claim that I didn't communicate it very well because I didn't tell Brian Callahan to lie. I didn't tell Brian Callahan when it came to Will Levis to say something that wasn't true. But what I thought Brian Callahan should have done, and even yesterday, he was talking about the improvement that he saw from Will Levis and how, he felt really good about a lot of the things that Levis did on Sunday and that his timing was much better and he was anticipating throws but he could have accentuated it a little bit more. That's what I'm saying. He could have accentuated the good and minimized the bad. Here's a young quarterback with zero confidence. I mean, Levis has no confidence. He knows he sucked this year. Levis gets up at the podium and says things like, we could lose by 100 and still have all the confidence we're going to go win. That's not confidence. That's positivity. Levis does not have confidence. So here's a young quarterback with zero confidence who just got beat by 900 points for the 900th time in a row. And yet, he actually did some good stuff on Sunday. What I'm saying is, I think the coach needs to make a big deal about that, not just kind of under his breath when asked, say, yeah, he, did some good things. That's okay. We did this. And then, so what if he didn't get the ball out quick enough on a check down to Chigakonkwo on 3rd and 18? Chig probably would have dropped it anyways. What difference does it make? Levis on 3rd and 18 takes snap, drops back, dumps it off to Chigakonkwo. He gains 3 yards. Here comes the punter. This isn't going to make you any happier about the Titans. It just changes the sack number from 7 to 6. And again, I think Levis is sitting here thinking, hey, I've already hit a deep ball to Calvin Ridley. Let's get a big play down the field. I get it. So what's wrong with Brian Callahan seeing this young quarterback it's his job to make that young quarterback good? Now, I don't know if he can do it or not, but that's his job. And so the young quarterback, for the first time, we were talking in the last segment about Brian Callahan saying, well, I see some positive signs and nobody sees it on Sunday and nobody's going to listen to me when I say it, but I see things inside the building that are very positive. And I'm like, great. Well, but on Sunday, we don't see any of that. Well, last Sunday, we saw steps forward for the young quarterback. It's okay to accentuate that. I didn't say lie about it. I didn't say get up there and say, boy, I tell you, I thought I watched John Elway on Sunday. But it would be like if you have a child, let's say a son, who makes nothing but D's and F's. And quite frankly, this season, wouldn't you say Levis's grades have pretty much been D and F? Really more F than anything else. But if you've got a son who's making D's and F's, a C is a great thing. Let's go get pizza, son. Way to go. Ian, a C on his science test.
That's a pass.
Way to go.
C's get degrees.
Now, if you were an A or B student all the time, if you were a straight A student, if you were Joe Burrow, a straight A student, and you get a C, then you can be upset about it. But Brian Callahan, again, with Levis's performance, he's kind of brushed it off. Like, yeah, he did some improvement. He's improved some and it was good. And yeah, we can do this better and we can this better, but we can. And again, all I'm saying is maybe be a little excited. Like maybe be like, hey, this is what we've been looking for. He hit the deep ball to Ridley. His quarterback rating was 127.4. He didn't turn the ball over. Again, if this were Peyton Manning we were discussing, if this were Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid doesn't have to go to the podium and say, boy, thank God Patrick didn't turn it over this week. But Will Levis ain't Patrick Mahomes. And I just think that the way that Brian Callahan approached it, by just this kind of monotone, yeah, he did some good things. He really improved. I like what I saw. Now he could do this better. Or yeah, he could do this. I just don't think that was the best choice he could make in that moment as the coach. Just like I didn't think that it was the right move for Callahan to keep Jeffrey Simmons in practice in training camp the day he threw the punch. Like his parenting is going to be different than mine. I get it. So again, I'm not saying that Brian Callahan should make up things that aren't true. That's totally different. You know, again, there is a difference between, hey, you know, we've really wanted Will Levis to hit the deep ball down the field, and he did this week. We really wanted Will Levis to take care of the football, and he did this week. We're really proud of him. Again, he got a C. That's great. And I do think that as the head coach, you set the tone and send the message for the entire organization. And on Monday, I think the message should have been how happy he was with his young quarterback's improvement. And I just don't think he took that opportunity. And so when Joe's like, he's saying that they should have lied, that's not what I meant. And if that's what it sounded like on Tuesday, then that was my fault. Again, I don't think Joe and Paul, even though I do think Joe and Paul, like to kind of, make up crap. I don't think that they heard that and thought that I said, hey, let's accentuate the good that Levis did. Maybe that's a positive step in the right direction. Instead, I think they heard me say, and maybe many of you heard me say, he should lie and push back on the media to say, you guys suck and Levis is good. And to that, that's my fault. And again, I'm talking about who could have done a better job. Maybe I could have done a better job Tuesday. But again, let's look at Levis's report card this year. Bears, F. Jets, F. Packers, F. You talk about lying. When Brian Callahan got up there and said that the pick six against the Packers was just Jair Alexander making a good play, that's lying. So when you get Fs all year and then you get a C, I think it should be celebrated. 615-737-1025. One texter, and I will address this. One texter says, hey, Jared, I completely missed your show yesterday after Paul nicknamed you Still Billy. Can you give us a recap? Here's why he called me Still Billy. Because Paul's rant yesterday was about how he flew. Did you hear his rant yesterday?
Yeah, I did actually.
So he flies to Los Angeles and he rents a car for the Titans Charger game. So he rents a car and it's an electric car. And he spent 15 minutes yesterday being like, I don't know how to charge a car. Well, if anybody's ever charged a car before, it's not very difficult. You take it to a charging place, you open the little thing up, you stick it in, you put your credit card on the charging thing, you wait about 20 minutes, 15 minutes, it's fully charged, you're fine. And so I texted Paul and I was like, you sound like a hillbilly that doesn't, I don't know how to charge a car. And he's like, I'm from New Jersey. We're no hillbillies in New Jersey. I'm like, what are you talking about? I lived in New Hampshire. There are tons of hillbillies in New Hampshire. Like, again, like my girlfriend, she's from Canada. Just country music in Canada. I can tell you there are some hillbillies up there in Canada. 615-737-1025, more of your phones. Plus, speaking of Brian Callahan and telling the truth, Brian Callahan said something yesterday that, I mean, come on, dog. We'll get to it next. Stillman and Company, 1025 The Game. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Tune in to 94.9 The Fan tonight for Vandy women's basketball. The Commodores are on the road taking on South Florida. Tip-off is at 6 o'clock. Pre-game is at 5:45. Coverage also available on the 94.9 The Fan app and at 94.9thefan.com. Does that mean Jake is in South Florida?
I guess so, yeah.
Good for Jake. All right. So Brian Callahan said something yesterday, and one texter texts in and says, and our phone lines are driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, and says, Coach Callie, I can't call him that. Like, I cannot. I don't like calling hockey players by their nicknames. I don't like it. I can't.
Everyone calls him Callie.
I can't do it. Can't do it. I can't call these hockey players by their, like, you'll never hear me say, boy, and I'll tell you, that was a great one-timer by Stammer, and I can't do it. I think it's because I'm not the players and coaches' friends. And I've told people, I'm like, you can be friends with people in this industry. You really can be. You can be friends, but you can't tell like it is if you can be friends. Unless somebody totally gets it. And most people don't. I really do like Brian Callahan, though. But Texture says, Coach Callie can't make you happy, can you? I think he means can he. He's been positive for a while about Levis, and you don't like it. Now, he's not, and you're still upset about it. You say you like him, but I'm not so sure. I love the show, but come on now. Well, let me say this. I really, really like Brian Callahan. I hope it works out for him here. Right now, it's not looking very good, but I do like Brian Callahan. I think he's a very good guy. You know, again, my girlfriend and I were vacationing in the Bahamas this summer. They were at the same spot. We ran into each other. He and his family, very, very nice, very, very lovely people. And again, I hope the best for him. I really do. But let me say this. There are sometimes I hear things and I'm like, what? And this was an example yesterday during the press conference of Brian Callahan talked and used a word that used to be very important on this program for the old GM. Here's what Brian Callahan said.
When you think back to your time in Denver, first year with Fox, or maybe first year in Cincinnati, what were some of the signifiers you saw that things were starting to turn around, the culture was starting to be built, and are you starting to see?
Yeah, absolutely. I am absolutely. I think if you look at some of the markers over the last, last 5 game stretch, really since our bye week, where we've improved and where we've found success. I think we're 7th in the league in rushing over that time. So that's an identity that we've sort of leaned into and built on.
What? An identity? I mean, Ian, you remember how important that word used to be to Floyd when talking about a football team.
Sure.
And he's sitting there saying, we're 7th in the league in the last 5 games and running the ball. That's an identity that we're leaning into. How? What? Okay, so let's pretend you're the owner and you're trying to have a conversation with your people. And they are saying, well, Miss Amy, we're developing our identity of running the ball. Wouldn't you? And I'm just thinking about what I'm thinking here. I'd look at them and say, so then why did we let the king of running the ball leave? And why did we sign a $25 million receiver if, again, we're trying to make this our identity of running the ball, or are we just moving the goalposts? Because that's what it feels like to me. And on top of that, when it comes to, we've leaned into this identity of running the ball. Did they run the ball effectively on Sunday? Did it feel like they were super committed to running the ball on Sunday against the Chargers? And I'm going to tell you right now, we in Nashville, and there's a lot of stupid stuff that people in Nashville will believe. I mean, I have been through the ringer with some of the stupid stuff that people believe around here. And I'm not proud of it. But we in Nashville, what we do know is we know what a football team with an identity of running the football looks like. And I can tell you, this isn't it. I mean, again, I'll never forget Mike Mularkey and how the fans hated the whole exotic smash mouth thing and running the ball with DeMarco Murray and running the ball with Derrick Henry And all of a sudden, the Titans went out and got Matt LaFleur from the Rams. And the fans were like, yeah, Grandpa Terry Rabisky's offense is out, and we're going to throw the ball up and down the field like the Rams with Matt LaFleur. And they tried. Brought in Deion Lewis. They sat Derrick Henry on the bench. They tried to take Mariota and make him into a throw it up and down the field quarterback. And 12 games in, they realized, you know what? We're better off handing the ball to Derrick Henry. And then it got to a point with Derrick Henry where that did become the identity of the team. And the fans who hated Mike Mularkey, even when they ran for 155 at Kansas City and won a playoff game, they were like, give it to Derrick. I mean, I remember taking great pride in like, hey, 2nd down and 4, give it to Derrick. 1st down and 10, give it to Derrick. Oh, we got the ball with 3 minutes, give it to Derrick. I'll never forget how happy I was. They went to Baltimore in 2020. They won on the road, and Derrick Henry busted one up the middle for like 35 yards to win the game. Like, that was an identity. This team had one good game from Tony Pollard a couple weeks ago. It's not an identity. Don't use that word. That's a very important word. And, to football people, that's a very important word. And we know what an identity is. And again, I didn't see this.
Well, it was just kind of formed out of default.
But again, if your identity was running the ball, wouldn't you have looked at that Charger game and said, hey, we're going to run it now. Like, we are going to get behind. I'll never forget when the Titans went to the Patriots in the playoffs in that 2019 playoff run. And I'll never forget, because we were told that Bill Belichick, no matter what you do, Bill Belichick takes away whatever you're best at. This was when Bill was still Bill, or at least Bill was still considered Bill. And it was a Bill Belichick will take away whatever you do best. He will take it away from you and make you play left-handed. And so, I went into that playoff game thinking there is no way that Derrick Henry is going into Foxborough and taking over the game. They can win the game, and I predicted that they would win the game, but I'm like, there's no way that they're going to go. Derrick ran for 200 yards. That was an identity. This is just like, well, our passing game stinks. Can't pass protect. Our number 1 receiver, questionable to catch the ball. Our number 2 receiver is Nick Westbrook-Akine. Our tight ends stink. So we're going to turn around and hand it to Tony Pollard, which I believe somebody at training camp was like, yeah, this team needs to turn around and hand the ball to Tony Pollard 25 times a game. And I think that person was me. But, it's just unbelievable. Unbelievable. One texter says, here goes Jared with another strange take about his former take. Just let them pass and go. The coach mentioned all of the good on the with Will Levis on all 3 platforms, and podcasts with Mike Keith and both press conferences. Move on. Again, in fact, give me one of the podcast answers. Give me the one where Mike is like, Ian, if you could, where Mike Keith is like, didn't everything that you wanted to have happen when Will Levis was on the bench happen? And he was like, yeah, it was good. Again, I'm talking about taking an F student, a D student, them getting a C+ on the test, and how I think Brian Callahan should have reacted, which then should have sent the message from everybody else, which is, wow, you got a C. And Mike Keith's like putting the ball in the tee, saying, swing, coach. And, he got up there and hit a ball, to right field. Like, hit the ball out of the park, coach. Here's what he said. I'm guessing we don't have.
Part of this was obviously him getting healthy. 90% of it was him getting healthy. But you hope during that period of time he would watch Mason Rudolph play. He would spend time with Trevor Siemian. He would kind of be able to take a step back and roll back into it in a better frame of mind to do the job the way you want it done. That's what you saw?
Yeah, I saw flashes of that. I think was his highest quarterback rating. I think maybe second only to one other game last year. He was efficient. We didn't turn the ball over, and one of the things I've said before is that really quarterback play in the NFL for 90% of the time is rather boring. And then there's 10% of the time where you got to come alive and you got to make a big throw like you did for the touchdown, or you got to make a tight window throw like you did twice to Nick Westbrook, and you got to make a touchdown throw that's you got to put in the perfect spot like you did to Calvin. Like those are the things you have to see when the circumstances require it. And he also made some really nice plays with his feet, which was good to see as well. So I thought he showed a ton of growth. I was really happy with a lot of the things he did, and ultimately we have to do more of it more often and better to put more points on the board than we did.
Okay, you don't need that last part in there. And not only that, is there a baby sleeping on the other side of the room, or could you be a little bit more excited about it? 615-737-1025. One texter says, Jared, he's saying they are starting to form an identity. He didn't say they have established an identity. My response to that would be, how many yards did they run for on Sunday? Starting to establish. They're not starting to establish an identity. I mean, come on now. I mean, I did an hour podcast this morning with a buddy of mine who covers the Vikings. And when I did the hour podcast, we didn't really like break down the game. It was basically, why are the Titans so bad and how did it get so bad? And then we talked a lot about, Sam Darnold and things like that. And we didn't really even talk about like Tony Pollard there were questions like, how do the Titans have the number 1 defense and 29th in points allowed? I'm like, well, let me tell you about how bad the special teams are around here. 615-737-1025. Now, there's something that I saw yesterday that, Twitter, as soon as this happened, Twitter was like, breaking news. And I loved every second of it. It just tells me what. It just makes me smile. We'll get to it next. Stillman & Company, 102.5 The Game.
Obviously, getting ready to go play a great opponent. You look at them really in every phase of the football game. Extremely talented, coached extremely well. They play hard. They play fundamentally sound. They make you earn it in every way. And one that be a great environment and great opportunity for everybody inside of this program.
We'll just get it out of the way. Nico, thumbs up, thumbs down. Where are we at with this thing?
Yeah, he was with us today. Had a really good day. Feel like he'll be in great shape for Saturday. But you guys can monitor the whatever the report is that comes out on Wednesday and track it through the week. But certainly feel like he'll be in a good spot.
So last night I was sitting in the hot tub and I'm just scrolling Twitter on my phone. And I see every single person who remotely covers college football or remotely covers the Vols when the injury report came out. And they were like, breaking news! Nico Iamaleava is questionable for the game on Saturday against the Georgia Bulldogs. And I laughed my tush off. I loved it. Of course, Nico is questionable for the game. Breaking news. Josh Heupel, I'll tell you, I love this Josh Heupel. And I think Tennessee fans, and Tennessee fans like Heupel, so I'm not going to say that you're ungrateful for what you've got, but this is what you need. He is just a ball coach. Like, there is nothing more to him. He does not care about the camera. He does not care about, rumors about other jobs. He does not care about what the recruiting rankings say. He does not care about Twitter. He doesn't give a rat's ass about any of that. He just is a ball coach who cares about winning on Saturday. Of course, Nico was questionable. Nico could have a gunshot wound to the brain. Knock on wood. And they would still list him as questionable. Nico could have had a headache on Saturday and said, Coach, my head's bothering me a little bit. And it's like, well, we're going to beat this Scarbini team anyway, so go ahead. And they would have said he's questionable for Georgia. He could have had a hangnail, and they would say questionable for the game. And, he knows it doesn't matter because he knows Kirby and Georgia are preparing for Nico. You think Georgia's going to sit there and say, well, let's get ready for the other guy this week? No, they're getting ready for Nico. But that's just the old ball coach in Josh Heupel. And that's why Josh Heupel excels at a program where it is easy to get distracted. The University of Tennessee, it's a different job. There's something about the SEC where kind of the top half of the league, traditionally the top half, where the top half of the league, to me, it's kind of all the same. All their fan bases care. All their stadiums seat over 100,000. All of them have tons of boosters, whether it's Alabama, A&M, LSU, Georgia, Florida, Tennessee, and they're all kind of crazy in their own way. But there's something about Tennessee and Auburn, I think, kind of fits into this category too, where it's kind of more, trying to think of the way to say this. It's kind of more folksy. It's kind of more, they let the inmates run the asylum sometimes, Auburn and Tennessee. And you can get caught up in that and distracted, and that can be a real problem at Tennessee. And I'm not going to say that was a real problem for Butch Jones, because Butch Jones' biggest problem was that he was a moron. But I do think that it hurt Butch Jones that he worried about playing to that audience. Some people, Tony Vitello plays to that audience, and it works perfectly. Then again, the baseball coach at Tennessee doesn't have to deal with the same scrutiny that the football coach at Tennessee has to deal with. And yet, it doesn't matter to Josh Heupel. Josh Heupel's press conferences, it's about getting there and saying as little as possible and getting back to coaching ball. Vrabel, for instance, and Vrabel's very similar in this regard, but Vrabel, he couldn't not sometimes get into it. Whether it was with Paul or whether it was a passive-aggressive shot at Rand or whatever, he could. Heupel didn't care. Doesn't care. Just goes, does press conference, gets back to work. And that's what Tennessee needed. They needed a coach who could block out, shield out the bull crap, let Danny White deal with all of that. Danny White loves that stuff, and he's just coaching bull. And that's why he's been able to adjust on the fly his football program from we're going to throw it up and down the yard all season long to we're going to run the ball and play defense. Like that, I think, has been fabulous. And I got to give him credit. Dylan says, how do you enjoy Twitter and get around all the gore, politics, and porn these days? It's a serious question from Dylan in Antioch. Is there a lot of porn on Twitter or something? I mean,
I don't know. I guess that maybe.
Is it different than Instagram?
I don't really do Instagram.
Well, here's what I'll say about that. You can mute certain words so you don't see it on your timeline. And I've done that for things that I don't want to see. I just mute it and I go on about my business. I stick to the following tab and not the For You tab. And I just go on about my business. And that's fine. But I will say this. I do miss the old Twitter where like the people that have blue check marks were serious people and where everything wasn't like, I mean, somebody posts something like Jaden Daniels this week is going to be the captain of the game for the Commanders. And like the first response is like, they went woke, with some blue check mark who I've never heard of. That stuff I don't necessarily like. But I mean, I miss when like somebody with a blue check mark would post something and it was like, oh, okay, this is a real person who's posting this. Did you see the Jared Goff stat thing on Twitter this week?
I don't guess I did. No.
So some guy with a blue check mark on Twitter, and again, a blue check mark doesn't mean anything on Twitter anymore, but some guy with a blue check mark posted.
Oh, the fake one that kind of went viral?
Yeah, that Jared Goff is 6-0 when he throws 4 interceptions in a game. And so it was like right where he wants him. Jared Goff is 6-0 when he throws 4 picks in a game. And on the Pat McAfee show, and it's not true, Jared Goff is 1-1, and this was the second time that he threw 4 picks in a game. And on the Pat McAfee show, Aaron Rodgers was on. And Aaron Rodgers was like, did you see that stat about Jared Goff? I mean, isn't it something like he's 6-0 when he throws 4 picks? And McAfee and his boys are like, oh, yep, 6-0. And the guy who did it was like, do you see how easy it is to spread misinformation nowadays? So I miss the old Twitter. But other than that, like, I don't know. Some people are like, I'm leaving Twitter and I'm not doing that. Twitter's good for sports, so I'm staying on it. 615-737-1025, which is our phone number, 615-737-1025. Speaking of Twitter, something that I did see on Twitter, didn't happen on Twitter, but I did see it on Twitter. A take from a very reputable source about a superstar Hall of Famer and us. We'll get to it next. Stillman Company, 102.5 The Game. Stillman and Company, 1025, 1063 The Game, streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook Live. We are live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios. So did you guys see this take? Did you see this take from a reliable source? Although, again, this wasn't like a news take, but I saw this and it definitely raised my eyebrow. So on the NHL Network, Kevin Weeks, old Weeksy, was on there, and I guess they had a segment about hot takes. And Weeksy was asked about a hot take as far as the, I guess the entire league was concerned, or whatever it may be.
I'm not sure. Pittsburgh's a mess, so maybe they were talking about them.
Are they worse than the Predators? Like, aren't the Predators the worst team in the league right now?
I think the Preds might be. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if they're worse than the Preds, but they're not in a good shape either.
So Kevin Weeks throws this out there out of nowhere on NHL Network. I saw it yesterday. I was like, what? Here's what he said.
We're going to put this out in TVville?
Sure.
Why not Sidney Crosby on Broadway?
Like, why not?
I thought we were
That's a
talking
hot take.
Nashville.
Nashville.
I mean, there's Broadway in Nashville.
That's what I'm talking about.
Oh, okay.
There's a couple of Broadways.
They need a center.
Yeah.
They need a left-handed center.
Yeah. I think
Why
there's a
not?
few teams that would like 87 though,
Yeah,
right?
that's what. But why not? Like, to me, from a team and a fit and a need,
what would you have to give up to get them?
you
The
can
city.
take Alan
The Titans.
Jackson. You could take Burt Dirks Bentley.
Church,
We can give you Dolly Parton. We can give you all of them. Doesn't matter. And they're all legends too.
Wow.
But we're going to trade legends. No, honestly,
Yeah.
the way Nashville is now a contender based on the expectations and the move in the offseason.
If you're Sidney
the
Crosby, do
urgency's
you
there.
waive your no move to go to a team that is a potential playoff team, or do you go to a team that you have a legitimate chance to chase a cup?
If I'm Sidney Crosby and Sid knows I love him, Nashville be right in and amongst the top opportunities. Because here's why. They have imagine him on that team. They need a left-hand center.
Mhm.
So imagine him on that team with the personnel. Like, if you start looking, where else is he going to go that's going to potentially be a better fit?
Okay. So Kevin Weeks, who is as connected in the game as anybody, says Sidney Crosby to the Predators. Again, that was a hot take. But he said, hey, you should go to Nashville. I don't even know where to begin with that. First, let me say this. Number one, that's not a report. That's literally a segment about hot takes. Like, that is as water cooler conjecture, as Barry Trotz would call it, fantasy hockey. That is as fantasy hockey as it gets. So it's not like Kevin Weeks is reporting there's a mutual interest between the Predators and Sidney Crosby. But it's kind of fun to think about. And so here's where I will start with this, because I really don't know where to start with this. I'd be all for that if the Predators were good. Like, I expected the Predators to start the year like 4-1, not 0-5. I expected the Predators would start the year hot, and everybody early would be way too out over their skis talking about this team looks like a cup contender and everything here is great and blah, blah, blah. And it was actually the exact opposite. This is what happened. But I was kind of thinking that we'd have a boring-ish season where the Predators were kind of always in the playoffs, but it was all just get me to the playoffs, baby. And if that was the case, I'd be for it. I'd be for it. I'd be like, I would trade one of the 3 second-round picks. One of the 3 first-round picks in order to acquire Sidney Crosby. Put him on the second line. Put him on, I guess you put him on the first power play. Who do you drop off? Marchessault? So now you have a power play unit of Crosby, Forsberg, Stamkos, Yossi, O'Reilly. That's hard to beat. But you're not good. So between the Predators not being good and the unfortunate likelihood, like, we got to talk about the elephant in the room, which is it is probably more likely than not that the Predators aren't a good team. Like, it is more likely than not that the Predators are not going to make the playoffs. I'm not saying I'm giving up on the season. I'm not saying that they stink. I'm not saying but like, again, the percentages are what they are. The historical precedents exist. And they do not say good things about the likelihood that you will compete and make the playoffs this year. So between, again, the unfortunate reality that the Predators sit in, coupled with what it would take to get Sidney Crosby, which I think it's one of your first-round picks. I heard Vingan today say maybe 2 of the first-round picks. I think if Crosby wants out of Pittsburgh and he wants to come here, it's 1 first-round pick. Crosby is old, and Pittsburgh is going nowhere. And I think, again, if Crosby wants out, you know, the ownership group in Pittsburgh, which is John Henry, who doesn't want to pay people, like, they would be okay with the 1 first-round pick and move on. And Crosby signed an extension in Pittsburgh. And the other thing, too, with Crosby, doesn't Crosby feel like a going down with the ship in Pittsburgh kind of guy? Like, when you look back at Derek Jeter's career with the Yankees, those Yankee teams at the end, they weren't very good. It wasn't like Jeter retired after Game 6 of the World Series with champagne in his eyes. I mean, that last year with Jeter and the last year with Kobe in LA, it was kind of like, yeah, our team sucks, but this year's all about the swan song for Jeter or the swan song for Kobe. And it kind of feels like Crosby's the same way. Like, he's going to be a Penguin no matter what. I even felt that way about Freddie Freeman and to a certain extent Derrick Henry, which was, I'm okay. Like, if these guys, if we sign, you know, this guy to a 6-year contract and by year 5, he's long in the tooth, I'm fine with it because, again, this is your guy and this is what you're paying for. So, again, it's hard for me to envision this fantasy hockey idea of Sidney Crosby on the Predators. And yet, I do think it would be pretty sweet if the Predators were to acquire Sidney Crosby. Like, to me, it's like if the Predators were to knock on the door to Kyle Dubas in Pittsburgh and say, hey, what do you think about Crosby? There's a part of me that's like, you know what? Screw it. Put all the old guys on the team and see what they can. Screw it. Go. Do it. But again, the likelihood is that you're not going to be good this year. The likelihood is that you're not going to make the playoffs. It's just a fact. And so I can't give up a first-round pick when, you know, you're talking about, how old's Crosby? He's got to be like 40.
37 or 38.
See, that's where this screws me up because Sidney Crosby was in the NHL when I was like still in high school. And I'm 35. You know, like he's 3 years older than me. But again, it is what it is. But I would say, to me, it is newsworthy because it was Kevin Weeks that threw it out there. And the one thing I'll say about Weeksy, he is not a bull crapper now. I mean, he is tight in that league. But I don't think, you know, again, like if this were something that were being seriously discussed, Sidney Crosby to the Predators, I don't think that I would be in support of that right now. If they were 8 points better or 6 points better, and we knew that this thing was headed in the right direction, I'd be willing to deal one of the first round picks for Crosby and just say, F it and go for it.
Fix your second line center.
Well, I know. That's why I'd be all for it. If you were good. There's one problem though with that, Ian. There's one problem. You're not good. Like right now, you're not good.
Nope, not right now. Not looking great.
And so I can't. I would love to do it. I would love. Oh my God! Could you imagine if there was a Crosby watch where we're on the radio? You know, where again rumors like Pierre Lebrun comes out and says that the Predators have dipped the toe on Crosby, and the agent is saying that there's a possibility that sources say is a. Oh my God! It'd be incredible. But again, like. This is all just fantasy hockey that we're talking about here. It's not, you're not giving up a first round pick when you're at this point. 615-737-1025, which is our phone number, 615-737-1025 on the program. And speaking of the Predators, Ian, I think this is actually pretty newsworthy. Like it came out yesterday and I don't hear a lot of people talking about this, but I do think this could quell some of the complaining. The serious complaining.
That'd be nice.
We'll do it next. Stillman and Company, 1025 The Game. And by the way, tomorrow is your chance to participate in Preds Pick to click. Who's excited about that? You should be, because you can tune into the Robbie and Rex Road program. And if you correctly guess a player that scores a goal in the Preds game tomorrow night, you win a pair of tickets to an upcoming Preds home game. Participate with Robbie and Joe tomorrow morning at 8:45 a.m. the local TV here is Bally Sports that carries the Predators. I mean, I'm a cord cutter, and I think there are a lot of people out
So
there that
you're
are
the
cord
problem.
cutters. I am the problem. What do you see as the future here? We see Major League Baseball dealing with stuff, and next
So
season,
wait, I mean, there's going to be an evolution in terms of how long term and even short term fans locally get their team. Streaming digital platforms are going to be an option. There may be more national games, but the whole delivery of our content, particularly on the local basis, is going to evolve. Having said that, first and foremost, we want to make sure it's accessible to our fans. And the business model is obviously going to change depending on how we have to do that.
that was Gary Bettman on our show about a year and a half ago at the draft. And, this has been this long, winding, good God, oh my God, Bally Sports, FanDuel Sports Network, Fakakta bankruptcy, where the Braves, Xfinity, DirecTV, YouTube TV, just mess. And yesterday, I think it got a little bit easier. So FanDuel Sports Network, it's Diamond Sports, I think it's Diamond Sports Group, DSG.
I think that's right.
So they're the company that owns the channel. And because they're poor, they're broke as crap. They're in like Chapter 11 bankruptcy, but it's like, I don't even totally understand it. But again, these RSNs, the regional sports networks, they're owned by Diamond Sports Network. And then because, again, they're poor, they've sold the name of the channel to FanDuel, which is so incredibly stupid. It's so incredibly lowbrow. Like, it is so low class. But again, it is what it is, and it's the hand that they're dealt. So the biggest problem with these networks has been well documented by this program. But the biggest problem is that for years and years and years and years, people like my 90-year-old grandmother in Florida were paying astronomical amounts of money in order to watch the Miami Marlins and the Miami Heat and the Florida Panthers without ever watching a period. She just was paying for it. It's part of cable. Everybody was paying it. Problem was there weren't a lot of people actually watching it. They were making a fortune, but there weren't that many people watching it. So then all of a sudden, when cord cutting became a thing and people didn't want to pay $1 gazillion a month for cable, when that became a thing, all of a sudden the cord cutter said, well, we don't need to pay these exorbitant fees for these channels. And let's see. I mean, hey, if everybody leaves our channel because they can't watch a regular season Kansas City Royals game, then I guess we'll have to adjust. But until then, let's roll with it. And they were shocked when they found out that almost nobody seemed to care about the Kansas City Royals. So that was a real big problem. That happened all the way back in 2019. So then as this has continued on, these networks aren't making any money. And a lot of people like me who have cut the cord can't watch the games. Even last year with Xfinity, there was a whole brouhaha because Xfinity wanted to put them on a higher package where you had to pay more to watch it. And Bally Sports at the time, and now FanDuel Sports, but again, Diamond, they were like, no, we want to be on the regular package. And eventually, in order to survive, they sucked it up and said, okay, fine, we'll be on the digital package. Well, yesterday it came out that they've struck a deal with Prime Video. And I think this is a very positive development because the Atlanta Braves in Major League Baseball, I believe, withdrew their objections to the bankruptcy filing for Bally Sport, or I keep saying Bally Sports, but Diamond Sports, which means that at some point here in the near future, if you're like me and you have YouTube TV and you have Amazon Prime Video, you'll be able to subscribe to Bally Sports Southeast or whatever the Fakakta channel name is. You'll be able to subscribe to it and you'll be able to get it and click, here's the game. Not extra sign in, log up, download, no. I think it's great. I think there are a lot of people that hate the whole FanDuel Sports Network thing, hate Bally Sports, hate Diamond Sports, hate the fact that you can't get the Braves and you can't get the NHL Center Ice package because that's blacked out and ESPN Plus. It's like, okay, good. I will pay for it on Amazon. Tonight, I'll be watching the Commanders on Amazon. And if there was if this had gone into effect, then I could just click over and just click right to the Predators in the middle of the game. That's what I want. And I think there's a lot of people that want that too. But here's the deal on all of this. They got to keep the price point low. It was announced yesterday with the partnership with Amazon that they have not announced when this will be launched. I've been told it's going to be around the first of the year, and that the price point has not been announced. Here's what I'm afraid of. I believe that the amount of money that they should charge per month for these channels is $9.99. Like, I think that's fair. $9.99 a month gets you what you used to have, the Predators, the Grizzlies, the Braves, all of that. What I'm worried about, I think it's going to be like $29.99 a month. And if it's $29.99 a month, I'm not paying for it. I'm just telling you right now, I am not paying $30 extra a month to watch my last place hockey team. Sorry. So if you really want people to do this and you don't want people just, pirate the games, if that's what you want, $9.99. But I do think that this could actually save that channel, which this time last year, I didn't think was going to be existing right now. But I think this is kind of a big deal and good for them. But again, that number has got to be $9.99 a month. If you charge $30 a month, you'll get like 4 people to buy it. And did you see, speaking of low class and low brow and just how broke this Diamond Sports Group is, did you see the option that they give you? You can buy an individual game.
$6.99.
$6.99 for one freaking game?
$30 a month or $6.99.
$6.99. Which, by the way, doesn't that tell you that the price on Amazon is going to be $29.99 a month?
Probably.
I don't think you're going to get people to sign up. I think that, again, if you want people to sign
I'd be surprised. Maybe they'd make it a little bit cheaper if they could have some type of in cahoots with Amazon.
I think Amazon's getting some equity in this. So I think that's...
Maybe you could get a little bit of a discount. Maybe if you go direct to them, it'll be $30. Maybe if you go to Amazon, it'll be $20.
Again, $9.99. That's what it's got to be. It's got to be $9.99.
And that's for per month.
Per month. And you can do a deal where for the season, for the whole year, you sign up for the whole year,
and that's
more
more
you get
than
a discounted
just
price.
one team. That's for the whole channel. So
I think I get the Braves right. With the Braves, this got
they go
announced,
on that channel,
and the Braves pulled out their loss. So I'm thinking that I get the Braves. I mean, baseball is what drives the bus on these because there's so much inventory. There's 162 games, but at least you'll be able to get the $9.99. That's what you need. All right, everybody wants to weigh in on this, and they want to weigh in on Crosby, so we'll do it next. We'll hit your phone, 615-737-1025, Stillman & Company, 1025 The Game. Stillman Academy 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Tune in to 94.9 The Fan this Saturday at 3:15 for our college football game of the week. Missouri and South Carolina presented by Twin Peaks. Take your tailgate to Twin Peaks, home of the 29-degree drafts and wall-to-wall sports. All right, so we got the Predators on the table here. Again, Kevin Weeks saying he thinks Sidney Crosby should be traded to the Predators, which, again, Weeksy is not, he's not reporting it. Because when he's reporting, he tells you he's reporting. He's not reporting it. It was a hot take segment on NHL Network. But again, he is super tied in. And if the Predators weren't stinking right now, I would say yes. But because they are, I'm not there yet. For whatever that's worth. And I think Crosby's always going to be there. And then, of course, Amazon Prime and Diamond Sports, a.k.a. FanDuel, formerly Bally Sports, they have made a deal. So what I've been told is it's probably around the first of the year, you'll be able to subscribe via Prime Video to watch the games. But we do not know how much money.
Surely there has to be an incentive to go through that than
just doing the
just
app.
Going through, FanDuel TV itself.
Well, I will tell you what the biggest incentive for people like me is. So on my TV, and my TVs are Samsung and LG. And I'm not a TV snob by any stretch of the imagination.
It's easier to get that app on the smart TV, the Amazon app.
So, the Prime Video is standard on all of those TVs.
Mm-hmm.
Bally Sports is not. You have to get, so for instance, at my, we have a deck and we had to get a TV for the deck. So I made sure I got a Fire TV because the Amazon Fire Sticks have the Bally Sports app, or you can get the DirecTV app if, your parents have DirecTV and you want to watch the games that way. You can do something like that. So I want to do that so I don't have to, log in and switch the input and, whatever. But Amazon Prime, I think, is pretty standard on pretty much every smart TV. So that, I think, is a big plus for whatever it's worth. Phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHunter.com, 615-737-1025. Matthew Nashville says, if the Preds were off to a better start, then they would now be to not call Kyle Dubas and make a trade for Sidney Crosby. Another texter says, Crosby is timeless. He's going to be a point per game player into his 40s. Johnson says, wouldn't this caliber of player help the Predators become better? I don't think you can pass it up. Again, I would not say, if we were hearing that there were rumors, and we are not, I'm going to be very clear about that. We are not hearing rumors that Sidney Crosby is on the market or that the Predators are interested or anything. Though Elliott did say today that Barry Trotz has been calling everybody thinking about making a move. If that were the case, then I wouldn't support it. I wouldn't be like, they've got to go get Crosby. But I also wouldn't be totally against it. I mean, here's what I think the package for Crosby would have to be. Your number one, because they're not going to take Vegas as number one, and they're not going to take Tampa's number one. They're going to want your number one because it's going to be the lowest. Your number one, top 10 protected. Your number one, Novak has to go back in the deal because you have to get that contract off the books. And I'm thinking probably a prospect, like a good prospect. So Mollendijk, Surin, Wood, one of the younger guys that's been picked high lately, Edstrom, one of those guys has to go back in the deal. Again, that being said, I mean, if Crosby doesn't want to leave Pittsburgh, then it doesn't matter. But if they did it, I don't think I'd be against it. I don't think I'd be sitting here saying, why would they do that when they've got a 15% chance, according to moneypuck.com, of making the playoffs? Because the texter is right that Crosby helps you get out of that. Here's the other thing that I'm thinking. Do you remember last year how long it took Roman Josi to adjust to the Andrew Burnett system? And how once he adjusted, he became an all-world Norris-level player? And we're talking about the same thing. Brian Poyle was on the show. And we were talking about the same thing when it came to Brady Shea. Maybe when you add that influx of players, it just takes everybody that time and it affects the whole team, there is a chance that you may not be good this year, but you might be good next year. I'm not banking on it, but I am throwing that out there. And Crosby is signed for 2 more years. So wouldn't totally throw it out of, the window if that were to become a discussion. I just, again, don't think it's very likely. One texter says, the Predators will be on the Amazon Prime app like the Thursday night football games whenever it happens. Yes, if you subscribe. So here's the deal. Because this is going to piss a lot of people off that aren't ready for this. If you pay for Amazon Prime, and like at my house, everything gets shipped via Amazon Prime. Everything. Whether it's a printer or, I had hardwood floors shipped via Amazon to the house. So everything.
They got everything.
The TV that I told you about that I bought for the day, Amazon, everything. We waited until Prime Deal Day and we bought like a 65-inch television for $300. Which is great. But again, like if you have Prime, you get the Washington-Philly game tonight, period. If with the Predators, you'll have to buy the subscription.
It'll be extra.
So I, for instance, have a subscription to Paramount Plus that is through the Amazon Prime app. Why do I have a subscription to Paramount Plus? Kind of a Star Trek buff. And the only way you get Star Trek is with Paramount Plus. So, when they had the Picard series, I had to do it and I never looked back. So make of that what you will. One texter says, what do you think the likelihood of your $9.99 suggestion is? 0. I shouldn't say 0. I'd say 10%. I think it's going to be $29.99. And again, I will not pay $30 a month to watch the Predators. It can't be $9.99 a month if an individual game is $6.99. It can't be that way. But here's the argument I would make for Bally Sports, or I guess now it's FanDuel Sports, Diamond Sports. Here's the argument I would make for you all, which is, would you rather have 100 people sign up at $9.99, or would you rather have 5 people sign up at $29.99? And I think you'd rather have 100 people for whatever that's worth. But no, I don't think the likelihood is very good. One texter says, Jared, I think they should make it a good cost point due to the economy, but a true sports fan will pay whatever it takes to watch their team. I disagree. I think a true sports fan will pay, whatever it takes to go to a game that they really, really want to go to. I think a true sports fan will find a way to pirate a game as opposed to paying it. And like, I don't like dealing with the inconvenience of going through those pirating sites or whatever. But a lot of people don't have a problem with it. Like, I got rich best friends that pirate sports. One texter says, Jared, I don't always agree with you, but I completely agree with you on the $9.99. I'm not in for $30, but I'm in for $10. ESPN Plus is around $10, and there is no way people will pay $30 for this. So, Ian, if I may introduce a completely unrelated point to this discussion we're having right now.
All right.
ESPN Plus is, I don't know exactly. I pay it all at one time every year, but
I think it depends on if you get the Hulu part with it. And, there's like the top ESPN Plus, and then there's ESPN Plus and Disney Plus. You can combine. I think it's anywhere from $10 to $20.
Okay, so I think I'm at 10, whatever for ESPN Plus. I think I'm like $160 a year, $120 a year. I don't even know. So I get ESPN Plus. I also have a VPN. That's it's for security reasons. Also, in Canada a lot, now I'm going up and down to Canada all the time. It allows you a VPN, NordVPN. I don't even know what I pay for that. It's like $2 a month. And what it is it's like, oh, I'm in Phoenix today. So let me click to a server in Boston. And now they think I'm in Boston. And now let me Atlanta. Oh, I'm in Great Britain right now. Okay, click that. And so it kind of masks where your internet signal is. So ESPN Plus, again, these are all independent thoughts. ESPN Plus has the every Preds game out of market. If you're in market, you don't get those games, but out of market, you get it. And a VPN allows you to say that you're in a city that you're not in, which in theory would be another market. So that's $10 a month, but it's like $12 or something like that. So again, $9.99 for the convenience of not having to jump through the hoops. Yes. 30, no. Sorry, not happening. Bob says, does Jared do anything but watch TV? Is there anything in his house to do besides watch one of his 24 TVs? Ian, I'll ask you this. Do I do anything except watch TV?
Work on the show.
I mean, I watch a lot of TV. Like, let's not kid ourselves here. TV's a
But
big
you do
deal.
other stuff. You like to go out and do, you know.
I like to go on the lake, but
Yeah,
now it's
go
not
on the
lake
lake
season.
and you know, like the CMA stuff and all
I mean,
that.
like,
You used to do a lot of that stuff
yeah,
back in the day.
I don't do that stuff anymore.
So, but yeah.
I used to go out all the time. I don't go out anymore. I mean, again, I'm really, it's trying to make me feel bad about myself. I'm trying to think like, what do I
Just
do outside
dedicated to the
of-
people and keeping everybody informed.
Yeah. How many TVs are in your house?
I mean, we really only use one. We have I guess we have 2 DVR cable boxes, one upstairs in the bonus room, but we don't use it very often.
So I'm trying to think. My house, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I believe I have 7 televisions in my house. I mean,
Okay.
I watch a lot of TV.
Got to be tuned in.
Like we're going out to dinner with our friends this Saturday night, and I was like, the Vols in Georgia are on. So yeah, they'd say it. That is what it is. 615-737-1025, which is our phone number, 615-737-1025. Coming up next. There was something that, again, there was another person that is telling what we don't want to hear as Titan fans. We'll get to it next. Stillman & Company, 1025 and 1063 The Game. And let me tell all the fine folks out there to join me, Chris Sanders, and D. Mace downtown at JBJ's, John Bon Jovi's, this Sunday for the award-winning pregame show from 9:30 to 11:30, where we'll break down the Titans and the Vikings. The award-winning pregame show is presented by Parman Tractor and Equipment, Sundeck Nashville, Sloan's Motorcycle ATV, and award-winning Blue Note Juke Joint and Blue Note Crossroads Bourbon. Okay, we got a little breaking news again, and I'd say it's Ian timely, little timely news here.
Yeah, probably.
So we've been wondering about this Prime Video and Amazon and FanDuel Sports, which used to be Bally Sports, etc. The Atlanta Braves 1 minute ago have released a statement, and again, the Braves drive the boat when it comes boat, bus, car, whatever. When it comes to the Predators and the regional networks and everything else. Quote, the Braves are excited to announce an expanded partnership with Diamond Sports Group that will give our fans more options to watch Braves games and other Braves-related programs. Okay. Beyond the existing FanDuel Sports Network linear viewing options, fans will now be able to stream games directly from FanDuel Sports Network across a variety of platforms, period. In the near future, we will also be releasing more ways for fans to find Braves games and content. With one of the largest territories in professional sports, this agreement is an important step forward in creating more access to our games for our fans who live in Braves country. Doesn't that kind of sound exactly like that Gary Bettman cut that we played, a couple segments ago?
Similar.
Where Bettman was like, we're going to change the way that we view the sports and the games and everything else. All right, here's what I'm begging. What I am begging is this. Put the Braves and the Preds, and I don't really care about the Grizzlies, but some people do. Put them all on the same channel on Amazon for $9.99 a month. And you will get a buttload of people who will sign up for that. Like a just ton of people who sign up for that for whatever it's worth. So keep that in mind. I do want to cut to what Charles Robinson said today, because we were going to do the segment before that breaking news came out. But I mean, I think that's good news on the TV front. But Charles Robinson was on Robbie and Joe today, and we've played the cuts, right, of Mel Kiper Jr. and Field Yates saying, hey, this is not a good quarterback class as far as the upcoming draft is concerned. We've seen the big boards. Mel has Shedeur Sanders at 11. He's got Cam Ward at 12. Dane Brugler has Cam Ward at 16. Shedeur Sanders at 23 behind Jalen Milroe at 22. Carson Beck has completely fallen off the map for everybody. I think Quinn Ewers, everybody kind of is out on, including me. And so it's not a good quarterback class. We keep hearing that. Albert Breer said it's not a good year to have a high draft choice. Here's what Charles Robinson said on Robbie and Rex Show this morning.
A lot of personnel departments were staring at the class and kind of hoping someone's going to come out of this. Like someone's going to get hot, really take huge steps forward. And at least someone will surface in this class to really put our minds at rest. And instead, it's just kind of been, okay, there's every quarterback. There's some people who like them. There's some people who really don't like them. That includes Cam Ward, Miami, Shedeur Sanders at Colorado are obviously the two. The Nussmeier kid in LSU, a lot of front offices are talking about him, but there's just no guys really surface.
Okay. So again, add him to the list, and it just seems like this quarterback class doesn't meet what we're used to when we think of a traditional high-end quarterback draft, right? Mariota and Winston. I know neither guy ended up becoming a superstar, but as prospects, those guys were big. They were accurate. They were winning games in college. They had lit up the stat sheet. They won the national title. Winston did. Mariota got to the championship game. They were legit high-end prospects. I mean, even the 2018 class where there was Baker Mayfield and Sam Darnold and Josh Allen, and it was kind of, which one do you like? It sounds like this isn't that. But the one thing that I would caution everybody on that I do think is important for us to remember is the two quarterback classes in recent memory for me that were considered bad quarterback classes. And I guess Kyler Murray is the reason why 2019 wasn't considered a bad class, but Daniel Jones stinks, and Dwayne Haskins, may he rest in peace, was not very good, and Drew Lock obviously is a backup. But the two that people kind of highlighted and said these are not good quarterback classes were 2017 and 2022. Ian, would you like to remind the folks who quarterbacked in the Super Bowl this past year?
This past year,
Mm-hmm.
Mahomes,
Class of
17.
17, which was, again, supposedly not a good class, and
Mm-hmm. And then, yeah, Purdy.
Purdy
Last
in
pick.
22. And again, so I'm not saying because Brock Purdy was the Mr. Irrelevant in 2022 and they said it was a good, that now all of a sudden, no, that was a good quarterback. I'm not saying that. But I am saying that
You can find them anywhere.
well, I guess I'm just saying that, like, just because we say it's a good class or it's not a good class doesn't necessarily mean that that's what it's going to be. 21, Lawrence and Wilson and Fields and Mac Jones and Trey Lance and, that class is booty. So I just would keep that in mind. But man, it's like, why can't the Titans suck the year that Andrew Luck's out there? Or the year that Joe Burrow's out there? Or why can't one of these guys in college this year be Jaden Daniels, and just light it up and throw 55 touchdowns and 2 interceptions and, okay, let's take them. It's just kind of depressing. All right, TD is here for the TD Power Hour. He will join us next. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106 for the game. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios. It is the TD Power Hour. Teron Davenport, ESPN, with us, as he always is on a Thursday at 4 o'clock. TD, good to see you. How are you?
Oh, yeah, I'm really good, man. Good to be seen, and it's another week, another opportunity to talk shop, so you know I'm happy.
It's another week. We have 8 more of these that we have to sit through, that we have to get through.
That we get to sit through.
There you go.
That we have the honor of sitting through. I'm really torn right now. I'm really torn right now on not how I feel about the state of the Titans. I feel pretty confident in how I feel about that. But Sunday's game with the Chargers. Because on one hand, it was a typical Titan Sunday, play a close first half, get blown out in the second half. You know, it's hard to watch. It's like, at this point, it feels like it's just such a drag, you know, on Sunday.
It is.
It's just such a drag.
A slow burn.
And yet at the same time, I thought Will Levis played okay on Sunday, and nobody
He did.
And yet, but like,
well, wait a minute. You got to give stuff time to come out.
I thought he played well Sunday. Nobody's talking about it.
Yeah. Well, listen, Callahan talked about it. He spoke on it pretty extensively yesterday, and Nick Holtz talked about it today, even in a negative, right? Because I'm like, hey, I know you guys are telling him to believe in the play calls that you're designing to get the ball out early so he doesn't get hit. And Nick Holtz was like, yeah, he's done a good job of that so far. He's even coming in. Like, they're talking positively about him. I just don't think it's not really necessary to rave about it. You identify it, kind of like Cole Anderson, what he did in his presser today. He identified the Gunners playing well. He didn't rave about it, but he identified it. He gave them credit for that, and then you move on. And I think that's exactly what Callahan and Nick Holtz did with Levis this week.
See, I actually think Callahan should have raved about Levis. Like, after the game Sunday, Monday, and I was comparing it to a student. Like, if your son, or in your case, your daughter, if your daughter is,
by the way, got accepted into National Honor Society.
There you go.
Congratulations, Devin Davenport, early college.
All right,
school.
Mazel tov. So
Thank
you don't have to do what I'm about to say. But if your daughter was a D and F student and got a C, I mean, I said this, I'm like, told my son is not a D and F student, but if he is,
he won't be,
and he gets a C, I'm going to be like, great job, son. Let's go get pizza. Will Levis has been a D and an F quarterback this year. And so I thought he had a C performance against the Chargers. And I feel like it's the coach who kind of sets the tone with the message and everything else. And I think Callahan's been like, yeah, we've seen some improvement and it was really good. And we like this, we like this, we like this, we didn't like that. And I'm like, no, like, he, in my opinion, should have accentuated the pleasure of the improvement, because then it's like, Levis has no confidence. You're, again, good job, son. You got a C.
Yeah, but then that's settling for mediocrity. And I think if you look at this game, the way I describe it from Levis is efficient. He was very efficient, and he did some good things, right? You know, moving the safety off the spot so Ridley could get even more wide open on that nice throw that he had on the 41-yard touchdown. Throwing with anticipation really well, Nick Westbrook-Ikhine, as he kind of wrapped around the linebacker and settled in the window. Before he made his break, he threw. Like, those were things that he did well. He played efficiently, but I'm not going to say that he played good enough to be like, hey, you know what?
Don't worry about Shedeur Sanders and Cam Ward.
Right. And I think Brian Callahan did the right thing in that he pointed out what he did well. And I'm sure in the rooms, he's pointing out what Levis did well. And he's saying, but listen, we need this. And that's why, like, my questioning to Levis, like, I said myself, hey, you did good on that throw. You did well on that throw. But what are some of the things that you need to do? Because that's an example of you being able to do next level stuff. What are some of the things that you need to do to just completely take that next step? And then that's when he answered. And in fact, when he answered, he said that he maybe didn't have to do the little shoulder move to move the safety because it was there. But then he did get into some of the things that he has to do. I think that's the right mindset, because you don't want to get into this, hey, all right, you got a fourth place ribbon. You know what I mean?
Right.
Listen, I don't want that. I want first and second at the minimum.
I guess I would agree. But again, you talk about settling for mediocrity. I think if Will Levis can become a mediocre quarterback, that's a step up. That, like, again, I'm not sure that with Will Levis that there is much more above mediocrity, in terms of what he can be. And so I am looking at this saying like, hey, if you can get Will Levis, because we were talking during the break about Sam Darnold. And I'm like, Sam Darnold is never going to be a star. He's never going to be a star. But the question is, he'll never be on a better team than the team he's on now. With Brian Flores' defense, with the best receiver in the NFL, Aaron Jones running the ball. I guess if Darisaw hadn't gotten hurt, that would have been. But you'll never be on a better team. Can you win with that? Golf. I don't know if he'll ever be on a better team than he's on right now in Detroit. With the line the way it is, and the running backs, and the Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Laporta, and all of that. And so it's like, okay, can Levis become a mediocre quarterback? Because if this quarterback class stinks as bad as they say it does, and Levis proves that he can be a mediocre quarterback, then there is a possibility that they could run it back next year with Will Levis as the quarterback. If he's mediocre, draft a tackle out of LSU or Texas, and draft Travis Hunter, and build your team around that, I guess is what I'm saying. So I actually do think it is a good thing that he was mediocre on Sunday, and I'm okay with celebrating the small victories.
Yeah, I mean, listen, all I'm saying is like you could celebrate it by identifying it. Like, I don't think it's time to throw a parade and all of that. No, that's not necessary. And honestly, you shouldn't have to treat a professional player like that. You should instill confidence in him. And Callahan has said multiple times, like, that's the intention when he stands up there and he says, when healthy, Will Levis is our quarterback, period. That is also a way of celebrating or, instilling that confidence. Levis, in fact, said that I never lost my confidence, but it did get reinforced from hearing things like that. So just hearing it from the guy himself, it's sinking in. So I think that Callahan's approaching it the right way. I just am not one to – I'm not going to celebrate something that's it's a standard. Like you better be able to do that as a quarterback. Where there's some things where it's like, okay, yeah, and you point those out, but it's just that performance wasn't enough for me to go crazy, and I don't think Callahan should have either.
See, here's where I guess I would say, okay, well then I want it both ways, because after they beat the Patriots game, Callahan's borderline in tears, and it's like, okay. Like, we talk about celebrating mediocrity. You beat the Patriots in overtime at home, and the Patriots are horrible.
You're comparing two different situations. We can't do that, right? Because that game, he was borderline in tears and choked up because it was a game that was very emotional. You look at the ups and downs.
There was ups.
He found out that he lost to a key player on offense and a key player on defense. They gave up the darn touchdown at the end to send it to overtime. You had the botch snap. Like, there were so many things. So like, it's a different situation. And that's not to say that there's a lot of things.
What a season we're living through, folks.
Yeah. I mean, look, it's crazy. But I mean, the thing is, Will Levis has to play better. That's really the bottom line.
I totally agree.
I think Levis understands.
But he did play better on Sunday.
He played better than poor, which is what he's done up for the most part to that point. But even bigger, the whole from all the way up to the front office, everything has to be better. And I'm a very big advocate of Rand Carthon and of Chad Brinker. They have to be better.
Sure.
There's things like this right tackle situation. I sent you a text the other day. Who was pounding the table for Roger Rosengarten?
You.
Not to play left tackle, to play what?
Right tackle.
Right.
I mean, remember I was doing mock drafts, just like I had him in the first round because I figured somebody was going to take a tackle that is good, and nobody did.
So it's like there are things that they could have done better. Like, I'm not going to hide from that. Everybody has to do better, and that's why they're 2-7. But my thing is this: allow the process to evolve. I just think it's too early to say, "Hey, clean it up. Everybody got to go." I don't think that that's necessarily the right thing to do yet. Now, if we're sitting next year at this same, look, man, something going to have to give, right? But I think you have to allow the process to take its course. And I know everybody doesn't want to hear, hey, the Lions did this and the 49, but they did. And they were different situations, but it's a case of ownership allowing a team, a group to progress, to grow, and to implement what it is that they're trying to do.
Yeah, I just don't see don't see like the growth, from last year to this year, because I'm not sure that they've really gotten better in a whole lot of different spots. And then I also am, when it comes to the organization, and I think what bothers me is just how it's like these games are blowouts now. Like, so it's gone from, last year, yeah, they stunk, but not every game was a blowout. The Thursday night game at Pittsburgh was a close game, and Pittsburgh ended up making the playoffs. And, the game against the JV Texans, albeit the JV Texans, that game was still a close game, and the Saints game was a close game. And these are and that was the thing I was kind of going to follow up on the Levis thing was, what do we make of the fact that this whole season, Levis has been terrible, and these games have kind of been the same, where they're close at halftime and then they get blown out in the second half, unless it's against the stinky Jets or, Chicago, who's going to fire their coach. And yet Levis actually played okay. And it was still the same story of the game.
Yeah. But one thing that happened in the game that continues to happen, a long return.
Yeah, that's just.
It's 13-10, right? They kicked the field goal. It's 13-10. Defense is probably over there like, all right, let's go. All right. Offense is like, we made it close, but guess what happened? A 57-yard punt return, a kick return. They get the ball on a plus 43, touchdown.
I told my dad during that drive that they kicked the field goal, I said, they have to score a touchdown here. And I don't know why I felt that way, but I felt like if they're going to have any chance to win this game, they have to score a touchdown on this drive.
Mm-hmm. And that's another example of the issues, right? I'm not sure what the percentage is for them scoring in the red zone, but I know the defense has not been good.
They are in the red zone, 50% on offense, up from 47.9 last year, but they are 64.3% on defense in the red zone. Last year, they were 37.7, which was number
best
one.
in the league. So here's what you have, right? 3 red zone visits, they score once. 3 red zone visits from the Chargers, or 5 rather, they scored 3 times. There's your difference in the ballgame.
And the 95-yard drive that they had.
That drive, and that was Michigan. That was Michigan against Penn State from last year. They didn't run the ball 32 consecutive times, but it was like, we're going to bow up and we're going to out physical you.
I did think that the stats on the TV, and I know you weren't watching the game on TV, but the stats on TV where they were like, this drive, 1 pass, 9 rushes, was a little off because some of those were Herbert just deciding he was going to be Lamar Jackson.
Yeah. Boy, he was taking ankles too. Woo.
I mean, who was it that he murdered?
Kenneth Murray Jr.
Oh, murdered him. My God.
He got him.
Oh, yeah. He sweat was coming down one side. He kind of ran to the other side, and then Murray was there, and he
got him in open field. I just was like, I sunk in my seat like, ooh.
So Brian Callahan says they're making progress. What do we make of that? We'll get to that next with TD for the TD Power Hour. Of course, we'll hit your phones at the end of the hour at 615-737-1025. Stillman & Company, 1025, 106 for the game.
I think we've done things, and we're getting better sort of under the surface. And I know everyone judges on wins and losses, but there's a lot of things that are really positive for me as a coach. And as I look at our locker room and how we do things, and the way guys approach their work, and the intensity that they approach it with, and what it's like every day in the building, those things are all really where you hope they would be. And we got to find ways to translate those things into wins and losses. But I see a lot of really positive things that, no one's going to want to hear when I stand up here, but that's not really my concern. I'm concerned with the guys in the building and where we're at. And I feel really good about that part of it. And we just have to keep coming and keep making improvements and trying to find a way to win some more games.
The super secret improvement, TD, inside the building, beneath the surface, that we don't see on Sunday. Let me say this. I'm going to give Brian Callahan a little credit, because I do like, the little clap back a little bit about, hey, I'm going to say this. No one's going to care, but I don't care about what you all think. I care about what everybody else thinks. And I'm like, good. But then at the same time, I'm like, you're 1-8 against the spread, which again, not that I care what you are against the spread.
Yeah, I don't think he does. Definitely not about the spread.
But what that's saying is that in every game, except for the Miami game, you've done worse than they thought you were going to do. You know what I mean? And like Minnesota's a 6-point favorite. And I would say hammer the Vikings on Sunday, -6. Like that's so he's talking about this. Hey, I see the improvement underneath the surface, and I know we got to win the games, but do you see the improvement that he's talking about? Do you hear about it when you're in the locker room? Like, what are we talking about here?
I mean, guys have said that there's improvement. I think, talking to Jarvis Landry, actually talking to him today, Jarvis Brownlee Jr.
I was like, whoa, breaking news.
Talking to him, we talked about how there's things that he hasn't seen before, concepts, and the Quentin Johnson touchdown was a good example of that. And he talked about how, he's getting better as far as knowing where things are going to end up and knowing how to react to something he hasn't seen before, and relying on his keys as opposed to what they're doing, but just what he's supposed to do. That's an example, just from that player in particular. The others, like I ain't gonna, there's some guys in there that if you look at them, you're like, hey, bro is miserable. You know what I mean? I could think of 2 that I saw today, and you just wonder. Now I'm going to make my way over and talk to, actually, that's going to be my assignment for myself tomorrow to talk to them. But I think there is improvement. It's just, it's not enough. And it's not as obvious as, everyone wants it to be, because like we were talking about on the break, this is a team that was expected to be pretty competitive. And it's okay to sell that you're working to be competitive, but I think you have to also make sure that you're tapering that expectation. That the old classic, never overpromise and underdeliver.
You know what they need? They need to lose close on Sunday. I mean, like a win would be great, but like if they go out there and go toe to toe with the Vikings and it's a 3-point loss, like where we're sitting right now, that's different than if it's the Packer game 2.0.
Yeah.
Where at 12:43, it's head in hands. Like, oh my, I can't.
It can't be one of those games where you're like,
what am I doing wasting my time watching the game?
Where it's like they shouldn't even been on the same field as that team. Like, it can't be one of those games. They can't have those games too many more times.
Here's the other thing too about the improvements and the everything else. Every little thing's getting dissected. And I want to go back to that Brownlee, to that Quentin Johnson touchdown you're talking about. To me, like Paul asked all these questions about, how did they scheme it where they got Murray wide open with Johnston and they took advantage and I'm like, I watch a play. You know what my reaction to that is? If you don't hit the quarterback, that's what's going to happen.
Yep.
You're running a zone coverage. The guy's going to run to the open part of the zone. The quarterback's not pressured, so he's going to see it, and he's going to deliver the ball. Like, to me, it's that simple.
You know what that route was?
That was go inside.
No. That was a dagger go corner.
Yeah.
You know how long it takes? Like, first off, there's no such thing.
Right.
But second off, you should never have enough time.
That's a backyard football play where you're like, go over there.
Really what happened, like he ran the crosser. He was able to get underneath the safety, who technically was the linebacker on that play, one of the safeties. And then Kenneth Murray he didn't have anything over there in the flat curl, and he drifted back. But what ended up happening is Quentin Johnston saw the open window. He had time, and he went over there. And then if you look, Herbert wasn't even looking to that was backside. Like the play side was to the left. He was looking there, and then he said, "Oh shoot, I got time. Let me look to the backside because chances are Q is clearing." And sure enough, boom, touchdown.
Yeah. And again, so like, it's like Brownlee, and great. He'll, I got to play my keys. Dude, you're not going to be able to cover for 13 seconds no matter what.
Yeah.
And those are the things where I'm like, I'm looking at this, and Brian Callahan talks about the improvement, and I look at sacks. Last year, the Titans got 45 sacks.
He's
now
not
they're on
talking
pace
about
for 34.
improvement from last year to this year.
Right. No, I know.
Yeah.
I know. But again, I am looking at that thinking like, hey, what are we? 45 sacks last year. They're on pace for 34. The sacks allowed, they're on pace to give up 53 sacks this year. They gave up 49 last year. There's really not much of a difference there. And I could just chalk that up to young quarterback versus Tannehill for half the year. But again, the difference is the 45 sacks to the on pace for 34 sacks.
Yeah. I mean, the pressure is just not happening.
And it's like, and so for those things, like I truly believe that if the Titans had a right tackle, if the Titans had, another sacker, like a real sacker, whether it's an interior guy or a, edge guy, whatever. Like if the Titans had signed Danielle Hunter, or if the Titans had signed Jonathan Grenard, or one of those kind of guys.
Huge different makers there.
Right. That's what I'm saying, though, is like, then your sacks are up. So now your secondary's better. So now we got to get off the field on 3rd and 18. If that's Danielle Hunter coming, Malik is not going to sit there and pat the ball and be able to take time and throw it.
Yeah.
And then on the other side, if you, had a right tackle and it didn't, this whole year's been like musical chairs of trying to figure out
it's going to get even more musical this weekend. Watch.
How?
I don't think Leroy Watson's going to be available. And with him not being available,
what's he hurt from?
He has a back. He didn't practice yesterday or today with a back injury.
What happened to his back?
I mean, did you see the get off that Bud Dupree had where he got called for the face mask when he was really holding?
Yeah.
It may have happened.
Seized up on him.
I don't know what happened, but yeah, he's been out.
Maybe he's got
days.
Who was it? Jedrick Wills? Maybe he's got the Jedrick Wills back injury. Did you see that? So Jedrick Wills, we all know he's the left tackle of the Browns. So he got hurt and the doctors cleared him and he wasn't 100%. And because he wasn't 100%, he told the coaches he couldn't play. And they got Jack Conklin at right tackle. So they put DeJuan Jones, the big fat guy.
Yeah.
They put him at left tackle.
Who I also said draft to play right tackle.
And he played left tackle pretty well. So they asked Wills about it. Wills told the media, it was my call. And because I'm a free agent at the end of the year, I wanted to make sure I was 100% before I went back out there.
Ooh.
So now Stefanski has decided that Jedrick Wills is going to be their swing tackle going forward.
Yeah.
And
hey, listen.
So maybe that's the same back injury Leroy Watson has. Like, I'm not getting embarrassed anymore. I need to go back to the practice squad. I need to be,
If anything, he needs to go out and redeem himself, But
So
yeah, I think it's going to get a little more.
Ojukwu, pencil legs, is going to be playing.
I think him, and you look at some of the other options on the roster, I think so. Now, to me, look.
What about that practice squad kid?
Options?
Yeah, the practice squad, Prince, the one they just signed. I think, I don't know, man. It seems like it would take like a natural disaster for Nicholas Petit-Frere to come back onto the field.
Forgot about PT.
I think he's a possibility too. So I'm just saying that right tackle. Now, what I would do, Tyree Phillips, the former Giants offensive lineman, he started 9 games last year for the Giants at right tackle, coming off a quad injury where he tore his quad, and he's healthy again, and he's out there. So.
This reminds me of when the Titans a couple years ago signed LaRaven Clark, like just out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And he got out there and was better than Daly. Like that is.
I mean, yeah, like Clark, Phillips has starts in this league.
So I don't know if I said this earlier today when you were on, but I know I told you during break. I did a podcast, a buddy of mine who covers the Vikings. I did his podcast today and he was like, okay, is there any way the Titans can win the game on Sunday? And I said, no.
Yeah, I can't see.
I
The
said
only thing
not
you can
Brian
say is Darnold's
Flores,
turnovers.
Like, yeah, but even then, like the Titans, I mean, I feel bad for them because I do think that they got a touchdown last week taken off the board. I thought they got screwed by the refs on
Yeah,
that call.
absolutely.
But and I think there needs to be like there's too much ambiguity with that. With the interception or the fumble incompletion, there's too much there. To me, I saw the ball moving before the arm pushed it forward. So if the ball moves in the hand, to me, that's a fumble.
And my thing is this: I thought you're looking to confirm, not to overturn.
Right.
They were watching the overturn. Like, it's like,
I mean,
come
well,
on,
and
man.
again, it's like, well, if the ball, like the idea of the ball going forward, okay, well, if you come from behind and you punch the ball forward, it's going to go forward.
Even if it's already fumbled.
But
yeah.
again, I don't think it would have won you the game or anything, but I still thought they got kind of screwed on that. Okay, 615-737-1025. We'll hit your phones for TD at the end of the hour. Dion is talking about where he wants Shedeur to go, and more importantly, where he does not want Shedeur to go. Get TD's thoughts on that. We'll do it next. Stillman and Company, 1025 again.
give us a little bit more insight on where you would like to. You don't even have to name teams. You can just give me region, style, whatever that Shedeur needs or you want to see him go and play for. You don't have to give me teams. Just give me regions.
I'm not going to give you regions. I give you understanding.
Give me understanding.
Somebody that can handle the quarterback that he is. Somebody that can handle understanding that what he's capable of. Someone that has had success in the past handling quarterbacks, or someone in an organization understands what they're doing, not just throwing you out there amongst the wolves. You don't have the support in the infrastructure of the team. Forget the line. He's played with lines that hadn't been great, but he's been able to do his thing. But just the infrastructure of the team and the direction of where we're going. He could deal with anything. One thing about Shedeur that separates him from a lot of quarterbacks, Shedeur started every game in high school, every game in college but one, and he is like that, man. Like, he has a true gift, and it comes from God, and he loves this game of football. You see him starting like his daddy every now and then, but that's just who he is. He got that honest. You got to see that. He got that honest. But this kid loves this game, and he has an insatiable appetite to win. And I want somebody to be able to propel him to the next level as well.
There you go. That was Coach Prime talking
Prime.
about Shedeur Sanders. So, TD, Mel Kiper came out, said his quarterback class isn't that good. He's got Shedeur at 11, Cam Ward 12 on the big board. Dane Brugler's got Cam Ward at 16, Jalen Milroe at 22, and Shedeur at 23. I'm a little torn on Milroe because Milroe, the first half of the Georgia game, looked like Lamar Jackson. And then Milroe against Tennessee looked like
Yeah,
and,
there's a lot of up and down there. I love the ability, but yeah.
So I have to ask, the insiders are coming out saying, yeah, it's a good year to have top pick. These
Always,
quarterbacks.
always.
So I have to ask, what do you think? Do you think, because I think Titan fans look at Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward as the get out of jail free card, the gift for this horrible football season we've watched, the savior of the franchise, the way Jaden Daniels has saved Washington. What do you think about these two guys? Let's start with Shedeur.
Yeah, Shedeur honestly reminds me a lot of CJ Stroud. He does. And I'm just talking about the ability to have an instant impact, the ability to just be unwavered no matter what's going on. Now, two different reasons, right? CJ Stroud had a rough living, upbringing. And so anything off the field that he's going through prepared him for on the field. You can't put him in a football situation where he's going to get frazzled. I think Shedeur didn't have a rough upbringing, but he's always been playing against this thing over his shoulder, Deion Sanders. And I think because of that, always having to, be under that umbrella, I think it's put him in a situation where he's not going to be wavered either. But more importantly, I think the accuracy, the ability to process quickly and know exactly where he wants to go with the football is so similar. I'm surprised more people aren't comparing him to CJ Stroud. Frankly, I've seen comparisons to Joe Burrow, which, hey, look, that's very lofty. I mean, Joe Burrow is one of the best in the game. But I just think the calm under pressure and always able to weather the storm, to me, that's where the similarities are. If I could have any of these quarterbacks, he would be the one I have.
So that, I would say, is kind of an unpopular opinion, which, again, I'm not asking. Yeah. I'm asking for your opinion, not what everybody else thinks. But I think that, I think it was Brugler that said that he compares Shedeur to Jordan Love, maybe with a less of an arm than Love.
I mean, yeah.
And I like Jordan Love, but I mean, again, we're talking CJ Stroud impact. Like, that's.
I just see, and listen, everybody has their own, but me personally, I've seen CJ Stroud in him. And just like I said, the quick throwing ability, the accuracy, and the processing is, he doesn't get enough credit for that, but that dude always knows where to go with the football. Always.
What do you make of Deion? And I mean, Deion has basically said, I'm going to be Archie Manning on this. And it feels to me like a choreographed effort to get him to the Raiders.
I think
between
so too.
Mark Davis, Brady, Dion, Shador, and the fact that, Vegas is closer to Colorado than, say, Nashville. I mean, I think what Dion's trying to do, I don't even think the Titans are on Dion's radar. I think Dion is trying to keep him away from the Jets. Like, I don't want him going to the Jets.
Wouldn't you?
I don't want him going to Jacksonville. I don't want him going, not that he would go to Jacksonville, but I don't want him going. But I think Dion is trying to set this up to where he goes to the Raiders. And, I mean, then what do you do with all that? Because I am worried about the Sanders circus that will follow Shador.
This is the perfect scenario. The Titans have the pick, and they're able to select Shador Sanders. And Dion pounds the table about, hey, we're not doing it. It's not going to happen. He's going to go do something else. He doesn't have to play football. He's going to go do something else. The Raiders trade. The Titans acquire more picks. They get a Cam Ward or somebody like that. I mean, remember Phillip Rivers and Eli Manning, how that one played out? That's the ideal situation for the Titans, frankly.
That would be wild.
Yep.
When you were like, this is the ideal situation. The Titans get the pick. Shador's there. The Titans wanted to use it. Dion bangs the table, says no. I was like, are you talking about the ideal situation for the Stillman and Company program? Or are you talking about the ideal situation for the Titans? Now, let me say this. In that hypothetical situation, if I'm the Titans, I'm going to take it. Like, if I know that the Raiders are like, and Dion saying, oh, no, we want to go to Vegas. And I will say, I'm going to take him. Unless you give me your pick and I'll take Cam Ward or whatever, you're giving me Bowers. I don't want your next year first. I want Bowers.
Oof. Hey, listen. Hey, you never know.
That's like Charles Robinson said today that I guess somebody said that an executive told him, for whatever that's worth, that the play might be to call Atlanta for Penix, not for Cousins. And I was like, yeah, but if you pick up the phone and you call for Penix, they're going to want the number one pick.
Right.
Or they're going to want JC Latham. Like, and I'm not giving you either. So, that's not going to work. Even though I do think that if I had to pick a quarterback, and I haven't watched Ward enough and I haven't watched Shador enough to feel really, staunch in this. I do think I would take Penix first because he's got a year in the league under his belt. He's older. He's got all those snaps in college.
Give me Shador.
Over Penix?
Yes.
This is the first guy that this is the first guy that's because everybody else is like, well, they all kind of stink, but Shador's the best. And you're like, no, Shador is good.
Who did Trevor like? He likes Shador.
He likes Shador, yeah.
Listen, I'm going to be frank with you. I take Shador over any of the quarterbacks over the last 2 years, not named Jaden Daniels. This class and that's here now and next year's class, I take Shador over any of them outside of Jaden Daniels.
Teron Sanders, ladies and gentlemen, on the program.
Hey, Dion, call me.
All right, we're doing your phones next. 615-737-1025, TD Power Hour, Stillman and Company, 1025 The Game. Stillman and Company, TD's with us. TD, daughter to the phones.
Let's go to the phone.
Phone line driven by WilsonCountyHunter.com. Titans and Truth, Chris. Kick us off. Go ahead, Chris.
Hey, what's going on, guys?
Chris.
I want to say, first of all, I want to appreciate y'all getting me through a workout right now. So I'm trying to get as ripped as you guys.
Well, we love you.
So first off, I want to ask, honestly, for Shador, I would definitely take Shador. And if the Raiders or even the Cowboys, I think they could be a future dark horse, I will fleece them for everything they got. But my question, TD, is why is Jerome Baker not playing? I mean, I get Jack Gibbons is in there, but I think he's a liability in pass coverage and Baker's a little bit better. I just think he should be getting at least a few snaps. Is there any reason why they're not even getting him on the field? And I'll hang up and listen. Thanks, guys.
Yes. No, get that workout in. Listen, Baker is more than better in coverage than Jack Gibbons, but in that role, like they're not asking Gibbons to do that as much. And his role is to come up and clean up. And he's doing that. In fact, Baker said himself, hey, listen, I'm not playing because Jack Gibbons is playing out of his mind, you know.
Is he though? Like,
look, I think for what he's asked to do, he's playing well. And he's asked to just clean up and make the tackles, you know. But to me, tackles are an overrated stat. It's an inflated stat. So I'm not going to just go by that. I think there is still something that could be said about making plays on the ball. And look, Jerome Baker, and it's funny because I was talking to Marcel Louis-Jacques, who is the Dolphins reporter, because you know, I'm smiling so you know who I'm about to mention.
Mm-hmm.
He got cut. David Long got cut. So I'm like, yo, what the hell happened down there? And he was like, well, and I said, well, that's interesting because Jerome Baker is up here not playing. And he was like, they're the same player. And I say, you know what? You're right.
And I like Jerome Baker.
And it's just, unfortunately, they're placing a premium on a guy coming up and making tackles and cleaning up that way. This team hasn't gotten turnovers. I think someone like Jerome Baker, someone like David Long, like that type of player that is able to, you know, punch the ball out and find the football and get it in the air and those types of things, I think that would probably be better. But, I mean, I don't think Jack Gibbons has been a liability. He's done what he's being asked to do, and that's all that he can, you know, I think that's him doing his job.
One texter says, TD, Amy decides to name you the general manager of the Titans. They finished 3-14 with the number 2 pick. What are your first 3 moves this offseason as the new GM?
First 3 moves, I'm gauging the interest of who has the first pick on Shador Sanders.
Yeah, because if it's New England or Jacksonville, like they're not. Now you have to worry about somebody jumping you.
Right. That because that's the other thing. Okay, you don't have any interest in it. All right, let's think about how we could get in a situation to where we could benefit off of that if you're going to take somebody else. But no, I mean, first thing that I do, honestly, I'm looking at that tackle market, and I'm trying to figure that out. I may sign a guy like a Jedrick Wills if he would be willing to go back to his college days and play right tackle. I'm doing that. I'm trying to find that right tackle position. That would be the first thing that I would do. The second thing that I would do is really scout these pass rushers coming out. Like I would really, and that's something that I would like from the rip be doing. That's the main thing. Like I'm trying to find a way to get better at right tackle, to get better at the pass rush, and I'm trying to look at another receiver.
What if the Raiders have the number 1 pick and they say we're taking Sanders? Like you don't have a single player on your roster or any number of picks that would make this deal. We're taking Sanders, so he's off the board. Do you take another player like a Travis Hunter? Do you go Cam Ward direction? Or do you try to move it back a little bit and pick up – what would your thought on that be?
From the Titans, I don't take Travis Hunter. Honestly, how does that make you better? Like, is he better than Jarrett Sneed? Is he better than Owuzie? Probably better than Owuzie.
So you think he's a corner?
And even if you flip it to the receiver side, it could help.
By the way, I'm playing Travis Hunter both ways if I draft him.
That's going to be tough, but yeah. But if you flip
you
it
got
to the
pick your
receiver
spots,
side,
you know, I think how to do that, but yeah.
If you flip it to the receiver side, okay, is he better than Luther Holden at Missouri?
Well, you would know this better than I would.
To me, the best option for the Titans would be him. out of Missouri, because he's a guy, he can play the side, he can play outside. He's a run after catch guy, so he gets you the free yards. He reminds me of DJ Moore.
Okay.
So I'm going. I'm weighing Hunter at 2. Cam Ward.
Let's go to Tristan, who's up next here on the program. Tristan, you're on with TD. Go ahead.
Thank you. I would not like Shador Sanders just because his attitude, like everything, like we've seen on videos, and Cam Ward has that interception versus Duke. But there's one quarterback that I think everybody should pay attention to is the Indiana quarterback, O'Rourke. And I saw an article that the Titans may want to trade for J.J. McCarthy. Is that true or not?
That's a hot take. Tristan, thank you for your call.
Yeah, I don't know that they may want to trade for J.J. McCarthy. I don't know that he would even be available. Talking to Kevin Seifert, he said the plan is still for him to take over next year.
Mm-hmm.
So you have that. And
I do think the Vikings are going to tag Darnold, though, and they're going to tag him. And like if you call to pick up the phone to ask for Darnold, they'll ask for your second pick.
Yeah. It wouldn't surprise me. Rourke is actually, coincidentally, Rourke works with the same Ryan Williams who works with Will Levis. He works with him also.
So then no thank you. I'm kidding.
No, I think he's a dark horse. I probably wouldn't put him in the first round, but he's a dark horse. I think Shador Sanders and this attitude thing, yeah, he has a couple
Sanders
videos,
ball worries me.
Here's the thing. I was talking about this in the media room today. I think we project Deion Sanders on Shador too much. Like they're different people. They're not the same person.
I think that's because Deion's doing that.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but yeah, who was the other one that Cam Ward had the interception against Duke. He had the interception against Virginia Tech. He had the fumble early against them, but guess what? He came back and he won the game. And for me, there's a lot of that hero ball in it that you don't want out of Levis. So there's similarities there, but I still think he's a top tier quarterback.
Lincoln is up next here. Lincoln, you're on with TD. Go ahead.
Hey, hope you guys are doing all right. Here's kind of my big issue with taking a quarterback is, simply put, there's kind of two different types of bad teams, the way I see it. And while the Titans don't have an answer at quarterback right now, I think the Titans, what they really need is they just need ball players. So I think that it would make sense to trade down and just try to get as much draft picks as possible, because, like, where do we have a superstar on our roster right now?
So I don't.
That's an excellent call.
I don't disagree.
They need play. Like Lincoln's right. Like one quarterback is, even if it's Shador, he's not going to automatically make them better.
The one thing I will say though is that, like, one of the things that the GM was like pretty big on was like, you have to have a quarterback. So if you don't draft a quarterback, and let's, for this argument, say that Levis isn't coming back as the starting quarterback of this team. I don't even think he'll be the backup of this team. Like, I think they'll trade him away the way that Sam Howell got traded away or whatever. Like, you do have to have a quarterback.
You do. You have to have one. But I think if you feel that the difference between, like, the difference that Shador Sanders or Cam Ward would bring doesn't outweigh everything else, like the overall team improvement, then you don't make the move.
One texter says, TD, are we headed towards another offseason where Levis does just enough to get another year to start?
That's what I'm wondering. And that's why when you're talking about praising for it, nah. If I'm the coach, I'm like, yo, that's good, but we need more. Give me some more. That's a good text right there, because they could be headed to that situation.
I think it's possible.
Yeah.
I think it's possible. And boy, would that be something.
Here's the thing, though. Now, back in the day, it used to be year 3 is when your quarterback really, maybe year 3. And I'm not saying, I'm looking the camera and I'm a make my eyes big. I'm not saying he's going to be good in year 3. All I'm saying is, in the past, quarterbacks have blossomed in year 3. That's all. So it may not be the worst thing ever.
TD, always good to see you.
Good to be seen.
So coming up next, I would like to pat myself on the back as far as this whole Sam Darnold reclamation.
Oh, stop it. He's leading the league in turnovers.
That's okay. That's okay. I was right about Sam Darnold. So there's another quarterback because you're about to, I'm about to do something. I've actually been thinking about this all day.
Oh boy.
So yesterday I said, there is a quarterback, again, I said, let's reclamate Sam Darnold, and they're doing pretty well. There is another quarterback out there because the quarterback class, free agency looks bad, that I said, I think he could be reclamated. I'm not sticking my flag in like I did with Sam Darnold, but I think there's something there. And I said yesterday, I was going to tell you who it is today. So I'm going to do that next. TD, this is who it is. Don't give it away.
Oh.
Your reaction.
Funny thing is, you know what? Funny thing is, like, I hate to say I agree with you, but I thought about that myself. That's the crazy part.
We'll do it next.
It crossed my mind.
We'll do it next. Stillman and Company, 102.5 The Game. Stillman and Company 1025, 1063 The Game, streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios. So I said to TD, I said, hey, I was right about this Sam Darnold reclamation project, albeit how right, we'll see. But I kept saying this offseason, I was like, I will die on the Sam Darnold hill. And Joe laughed at me. And I think I lost to Jared versus Joe for saying that Sam Darnold was better than Tua. And I still stand by that. But that said, we know the Titans will be in the QB market, and the free agent quarterback class, or even the trade class, it's not looking very good. People will say Sam Darnold. Jeremy Fowler had a report yesterday saying that, or a report, had a speculation and opinion that Sam Darnold could be the Titans quarterback. And I'm like, I think Minnesota tags him, and I think they're going to want I think they're going to want your second round pick, and I wouldn't be willing to do that. And then you got to pay him a bunch of money, and I certainly wouldn't want to do that. So take him out. He's already been reclamated. But I have another one that I'm keeping in mind. 1 year, $6.5 million. I actually, when I showed it to TD, I wrote it down and showed it to him. I thought he was going to go crazy. He actually didn't. Mac Jones. Right now, the backup in Jacksonville, he'll be starting again this week. Mac Jones. That's the guy that I'm kind of circling thinking, hey, if you end up with the third pick and maybe the quarterback you want, Shador, Cam Ward, maybe they're there, maybe they're not, but you want to make sure you got a bridge quarterback or a guy who, if he's got to start, he's got to start. Mac Jones. Not Justin Fields, not Daniel Jones, not some of these other guys. Mac Jones. Sam Darnold has already been reclamated, and I think he's probably a divisional round caliber quarterback on a good team like Ryan Tannehill was. But the key with a quarterback reclamation is that you get them when they are down, not when they're up. Again, kind of like Tannehill. You can't do that, and say, well, I want, again, the guy that's already made it. No. That's going to cost you $30, $40 million. So let's say that you think, we like Jalen Milroe. Let's use Milroe as the example. You like Jalen Milroe, and your plan is, you know what? We're going to draft him, but we're going to sit him. Again, Mac Jones. You can start Mac Jones, Jalen Milroe. If it doesn't work out, Jalen Milroe comes in week 6 or next season, whatever. And I will tell you why I actually think there might be some juice from the orange. Because I think New England was the problem. Mac Jones as a rookie, when Josh McDaniels was the OC, was 10-7 as a starter, and he completed 68% of his passes, 22 touchdowns, 13 picks, and his QB rating, again, as a rookie, was 92.5. So what happened? Well, I'll tell you what I think happened. He was the pawn in Bill Belichick's whole I'm smarter than everybody tour, which was really the I'm insecure because Tom Brady won a Super Bowl in Tampa Bay, so I have to prove that I'm still that dude tour. Josh McDaniels leaves. Belichick, who is all about at this point the Belichick way, goes and gets his buddy, a defensive coach, to coach Mac Jones. I mean, that's just not fair. Do you think if after year 1, they had brought in Eric Mangini to coach Tom Brady, that he would have been the same as he was when he had Charlie Weiss? And I think you know the answer to that. So Mac got cocky. Let's be honest. Think about the year span he went through. He won a national title at Alabama. He was a first-round draft choice. He made the Pro Bowl. Remember, people were comparing Mac Jones to Tom Brady because he was the guy that followed the guy. Then Bill brings in a bozo to coach him. He needed to be humbled, but I'm not sure that he needed to be embarrassed. And that's what he was. He was embarrassed because it went from, Mac Jones, national championship quarterback, Heisman Trophy candidate, Mac Jones, Pro Bowler as a rookie, 10-7, to Mac Jones. Ugh. And that'll embarrass you. Again, I'm not saying I'd push all my chips in on Mac Jones the way that the Colts pushed all their chips in on Carson Wentz. I'm not doing that. But I do think there's something there with Mac Jones. And I'd like to see smaller media market. Again, he's played quarterback in the South, smaller media market, Calvin Ridley at receiver, Tony Pollard at running back, maybe Travis Hunter at wide receiver, the Arizona kid, the Missouri kid, one of those guys, or the LSU or the Texas kid at right tackle, a tight end, which right now the free agent class looks horrendous for tight ends, but maybe somebody cuts a tight end, or maybe somebody doesn't want a tight end anymore who's pretty decent. So you fourth round pick swap them or something like that. And I think Matt could be successful. And again, he's been in the league. So for Mac Jones, it's not going to be some giant task to learn Brian Callahan's playbook. And again, I think Brian Callahan has been humbled a little bit with this Will Levis experience to, hey, you're getting on pace with somebody who's a little bit more of a grown-up, a little bit more experience. So again, I'm not saying that Mac Jones is going to end up being an NFL starting quarterback. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that Mac Jones is going to be the next Ryan Tannehill. And I'm not even saying that the next Ryan Tannehill is necessarily what you want, because you might want something more than that. I'm just saying that when we look around the league and we see Russell Wilson reclamated by Arthur Smith in Pittsburgh, we see Sam Darnold reclamated in Minnesota, we see this happen with guys where, wow, it didn't work out for them in their first stop, but their second stop, Baker Mayfield in Tampa. I'm just throwing it out there that if I had to circle a guy this year and say, let's see what they've got, it would be Mac Jones. And that's why I watched the Minnesota-Jacksonville game last week in the noon window, was because I wanted to see how Mac Jones looked. And Mac did some good things and Mac did some bad things. But that would be the guy that I would be keeping an eye on. Again, I'm not banging the table for Mac Jones, but that's a guy that I'd be keeping an eye on. And I'm not going to say that he's better than Tua the same way I did with Sam Darnold. And I was right about that. We shall see. 615-737-1025, Stillman and Company. There's one thing that for some reason I'm starting to think is more and more likely. And I don't know how I'm going to react to this. And I don't know how you're going to react to it. We'll get to it next. Stillman and Company, 1025 The Game. All right, let's talk Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. I love Hiller. They take great care of my home. In fact, Hiller was at my home this week, and they will be back to start work on a project, and it should only take a couple of hours, but they will be back, and they will be getting it done this upcoming week. That's why I absolutely love Hiller. And with true transparency pricing, there is no question as to what it is that they're going to ask me to do. So let me tell you, too, the other thing that I like about Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. Hiller wants every child to experience the joy of Christmas. So they're donating $50 to Toys for Tots for every tankless water heater purchase. So take advantage of this when it comes to Hiller, and let's do some good. Also, this is the season of giving, and there is nobody who gives the way that my friends at Hiller like to give and do such a great job. Get a $500 Visa gift card when you buy select new HVAC systems, or get a $500 Visa gift card with the purchase of a new whole home generator. All of these purchase options have great financing plans with low monthly payments. It's great. But these deals are only available until the end of the year, so schedule today by visiting happyhiller.com. That's Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical, proud supporters of the Preds, the Vols, and Vandy. Hiller, call the Happy Face Truck today.
Talk so much about this year being about finding out about whether Will can be the guy moving forward. Do you think 8 more games is enough time for you to know?
Hard to put a timeline on that. I think for me, I'm looking for things every game, every practice. Those are all part of it. But yeah, I think he improves the play that he had last week. I think we're all going to feel really good about how he's played the position through 2 games back, and we're just going to try to keep stacking those games.
Okay, there you go. Brian Callahan saying, well, it's I can't put a timeline on when we'll know if Levis is going to be our guy or not. But, I'm watching every game and I'm watching every practice. And so we'll keep it at that. And I will say this, as we talk every day about Shedeur Sanders and Cam Ward and maybe even a little Jalen Milroe, and as we talk about the free agent class, Russell Wilson or Russell Wilson, Daniel Jones, Justin Fields. It's not a great
Minshew.
Gardner Minshew, etc. It's not really exciting. So it's like, okay. And I've thrown Mac Jones out there as kind of the guy that, hey, why not take a flyer? The more these options come or don't come as far as the quarterback's concerned, I kind of feel like, and again, what these options, let's use Atlanta as an example. Like there's a thought that maybe Atlanta, because they drafted Michael Penix, they would want to turn around and they would want to get rid of Kirk Cousins after 1 year. But then we hear, well, that's probably not going to happen. Again, I think Sam Darnold is going to get tagged. And I think there's going to be a bidding war to trade for him. And I don't think you should trade a second-round pick to get Sam Darnold and then have to pay him $50 million. Deion Sanders, it sounds like, would not let Shedeur come to the Titans. So, that's another thing. Like, oh, what's that mean? Yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah, no, you think Callahan would count as one of those teams that doesn't know how to, develop him?
They don't know. The only thing I could think, and I really mean this, is I don't deny the fact that one of the big strong points they have when it comes to Rand is his relationship building.
Fair.
And I have no idea if Rand's going to be back next year or not. But let's just, for this argument's sake right now where we sit, because like the Titans could hire Cliff Kingsbury and now it's like, okay, well, hold on, different discussion. But let's say that the Titans, run it back. I do wonder if Rand Carthon could be the one that could work Deion into accepting it. I just think Deion's telegraphing it. He wants Shedeur to go to the Raiders. So the more we talk these things through,
I think the Raiders can develop him.
Deion didn't care about that. Deion said, hey, I want somewhere where they can,
or he can take, Shedeur's.
Did you see who they hired this week or last week?
The Raiders.
Yeah, they fired Luke Getsy, the offensive coordinator.
I did see that. Yeah.
And did you see who they hired
as the OC?
Mm-hmm. And
no.
Who they hired as OC and who they brought out of retirement into the organization.
I don't think so.
So Scott Turner is the new offensive coordinator.
Oh, the Norv Turner thing.
Norv Turner has returned as a senior advisor to the Raiders. Who was Deion's coach in Washington? Norv Turner. Norv Turner was the offensive coordinator in Dallas. Now, Deion wasn't there, but with Aikman and Emmett, and so I do wonder if that Norv Turner thing between Norv Turner and, again, when it really comes to this idea of, the organization that knows what they're doing for the quarterback, what did Fitz tell us yesterday? Who did Fitz tell us is in charge of the Raiders quarterback situation? Tom Brady. And I think Deion is somebody who would buy into that. So I think it's being telegraphed that Shedeur's going to the Raiders or that's what Deion wants. So the more that this comes out, the more and more I'm starting to think there's a chance that Will Levis is going to be this team's starting quarterback next year. And I reserve the right to change my mind, but I don't think I'm going to. I don't want that. I think Levis is probably a backup. Now, I think he could be better. This team has done him no favors between the coach, who I think bit off a little bit more than he thought he could chew, between the right tackle situation, which, gosh, if only somebody could have seen that coming.
I wish.
But I guess it was, who could have thought that Nicholas T. Ferreira came?
PT.
Who could have thought PT would have sucked?
There's only some anecdote we'd have heard about that.
I mean, it's just, So they've done Levis no favors, but again, I think Levis is probably a backup. So I don't want him back. So the more we talk through this, I mean, we're literally having a conversation right now about Mac Jones.
I was thinking about this today, or I think it was this morning. What did we think about Mariota after his second year?
Oh, we thought Mariota was great.
And how'd that work out?
Didn't work out well.
So, I'm not saying this could go oppo on Levis, but we've seen this situation where after the second year, we thought we knew the situation at quarterback.
But remember, you see bad before you see good. Bad reveals itself before good does.
I guess Marcus didn't show any bad then.
If somebody's good, they have to show it again and show it again. Like even now, CJ Stroud, I think there's a little bit of a, hey,
second year thing.
Show it again, that kind of thing. So, I mean, I'm just saying, like, when it comes to Levis, I mean, hey, maybe you're right.
We all loved Marcus after the second year. Thought he was it, ready to. And then after another year, it was okay. Well, let's see. Then after another year, it was finally like, okay,
this is the year.
So I'm just,
Josh Allen sucked after year 2 too. But again, if I'm betting for Levis or betting against him, I'm betting against him. So I'm not interested right now where things sit in bringing Levis back next year. That's just me. But again, the more that we do this, the more I'm like, the more I hear the draft gurus tell me that these quarterbacks stink, the more I'm like, yeah.
Canning for Manning.
And you bring Levis back, and I don't know the fans are going to. Phone line should by WillScotty100.com, 615-737-1025. One texter says, Mac Jones, the kid is awful. I would take a lifetime of Will Levis before I want a singular drive of Mac Jones. Look, I'm not saying make Mac Jones the president. I'm not saying make Mac Jones the franchise quarterback. I'm saying a bridge deal, 1 year, $6.5 million. I don't think it's crazy. And again, when you say like, oh, he's terrible, he won 10 games as a rookie. How many games has Levis won? Levis has won like 3 games in his career. So no. This idea of, oh, Levis, he's way better than Mac Jones. I'm going to need proof. But the good news is it looks like we may get Will Levis versus Mac Jones this year. And then we can continue on this. Eli says, Zach Wilson is better coached and better than Mac Jones. You can have Zach Wilson. I think he's a dope. And I think that, I think he sucks. One texter says, I don't care who it is, but if the Titans decide to draft a new quarterback, you have, in all caps, have to make them sit. Please take time to develop a quarterback because the track record is horrible at developing quarterbacks. So if it's Mac Jones starting, I can live with it, says one texter. I'll just say this. When it comes to Mac Jones or sitting, or I am pro sitting a quarterback. But if they've taken enough snaps in college, they can play right away. So, for instance, Jaden Daniels has taken enough college snaps that he's ready for the pros. I think, and I haven't looked at the totals, I think Shedeur Sanders has taken enough snaps that he's ready for the pros. I think Cam Ward has, though he was at JUCO for a little bit. I don't know if Milroe has. That would be the one where I'm like, I don't know if he's taken enough snaps. One texter says, do you ever think you need to keep good ideas like your Mac Jones idea? So he thinks it's a good idea. Do you ever think you need to keep good ideas like your Mac Jones idea off the air in hopes they happen? I think you bring some smoke to an idea like this, and 1, it raises his price, and 2, it gets other people thinking the same. Well, then that would be a good thing. Then if I say that, hey, Mac Jones, Belichick screwed up, which I do think Belichick screwed up. If that's the case, then I'm fine. I'm fine with, hey, the Titans saying, you know what, that's a good idea. It'd be nice if the Titans actually listen to me for a change, as we talk about right tackle. One texter says, if United shouldn't bring Levis back for next season, are they going to cut him or try to trade him? How would that work? Washington traded Sam Howell to Seattle for a 4th-round pick. I think that's what you're looking at with Levis. Is that kind of similar thing for Levis to go be the backup somewhere? 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025, Stillman & Company, 102.5, 106 for the game. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 1063 the game. This week's Nashville's best deal is Fat Bottom Brewing Company. Enjoy their long-awaited release of their barrel-aged Noel Christmas ale just in time for the holidays. Get half off a $100 gift card now at theGameNational.com/deals while supplies last. Hal Gill joins us on the program from Edmonton, where the Predators get set to take on the Oilers tonight. Hal, I mean, I really enjoyed what happened Monday night in the game against Colorado. I thought it was a good competitive game. I thought it was a tough ending. I thought it could have gone either way. And if this were a normal November where you didn't start 0-5 and you weren't trying to dig out of a hole, I would have walked away from that and said, got a point, played well, good team, good job, moved on. But how I feel like we're getting to the point where these got to be 2-point games now. Like they've got to start racking up the points. Take me through it as somebody who's played the game. Do they know that? Are they thinking that right now, which is we got to start getting some points here?
Yeah, there's certainly that's very real. They need 2 points. They know it. But I think I always found it hard when you go into a game saying we need 2 points and you're on the road. Like it's hard to play that way. You're putting pressure on yourself. You want to grind out games like they did against Colorado. They were grinding. They were in a tight game. They defended really well. And, they just didn't get that break to get the win. But I think they have to have some, hey, it is 1 point. You got the point. But I think they're building on something that's, right now, you're looking around going, we need more than just a point. But you got to start somewhere, and playing well on the road is never a bad thing.
Tonight against Edmonton, is there kind of a thought that like, hey, Edmonton, we know what Leon Draisaitl does to the Predators. Is there kind of a thought that, hey, this is an intimidating game given the stakes and the fact that they really need to start racking up points?
Yeah, certainly. And they better keep an eye on Draisaitl because Draisaitl has a ton of swagger against the Preds. McDavid as well. And, if you take the best players in the world and give them a little extra swagger, they're just going out there, feeling like they're on top of the world. And that's not a good thing. So they got to change that. They got to change that narrative, and they need to do it tonight. Like they need these points, and they need to battle these guys. And it's going to come down to shutting those guys down, or at least containing them. McDavid looking for his 1,000th point tonight. He's going to be buzzing. He's going to be hungry for it. He wants to get it over with tonight and get that point. So they better be ready for it. And how do you do that? You can't do that one guy. You need 5 guys. You need everyone contributing, guys pushing back. I feel like they've played McKinnon relatively well, and they're going to need to do that against McDavid and Draisaitl tonight.
Hal Gill with us on the program. He's in Edmonton. Hal, I have a theory. My theory is this will eventually click. The Marchessault and Stamkos, and they'll find somebody to play with them, or they'll find the right line combination or whatever. This will click. The power play will be elite. The defense will be solid. The goalie will continue to play well. I'm just worried it might happen too late. Like, I'm worried that the hole might be too deep before the clicking comes. How do you manage that as a team, knowing that the players are good players and that they probably are going to figure out a way to get it done? But at the same time, these games matter even in November and October.
Yeah, it's getting late. I think I heard someone say it's getting late a little too early. They need to crank this out. They need to find that. But the chemistry was there. You saw Stamkos buzzing in overtime, skating. I think he hit 24.2 miles per hour, like the fastest in the NHL this season. So I think his confidence is coming around. Playing with O'Reilly and Forsberg, they're having some success. So that's coming there. We need to get Marchessault going. There's a lot of things that need to click, and you're right. It needs to happen sooner rather than later. But again, I go back to the process. Like, you got to worry about the little things first and let it build and take a step at a time. You can't go out there and say, hey, if this doesn't click, we're in trouble. You got to battle at it one game at a time, one shift at a time, and try to get that confidence and get that swagger and that chemistry with your teammates. All that has to come together, but it's hard to force it, because if you try to force it and try to, play a panic game, and it comes back to bite you. You just got to let it come to you and play the right way.
Hal Gill with us. Hal, what do we know about this Adam Wilsby that got called up yesterday from Milwaukee? It seems like he'll be in the lineup, I would assume, tonight against Edmonton. What do we know about him? What do we think?
I don't think he's in the lineup tonight. We'll see. We haven't told the exact lineup, but I think he played really well in Milwaukee. I talked to Scott Nickel, who's really happy with the way he's progressed. They really liked him in camp. I do think right now, Del Gazzo has taken a big strides, and he's played really well. So this is a long, hard road trip, and it's going to be a battle with a back-to-back with Edmond, Calgary. So we'll see. I think we might see him tomorrow night, but we'll wait and see. I know they're high on him. There's a reason why they waived Fabro and brought him up.
Hal, did you hear what Kevin Weeks said on NHL Network yesterday? Again, it was a hot take segment, which I love that. But it was a hot take segment, and his hot take was Sidney Crosby to the Predators. Let me say this. If this team were better, like if this team were where I thought they were going to be, I'd be all for it. I'd give up one of the 3 first-round picks, go get Sidney Crosby, stick him on the second line, and let's roll. Unfortunately, I just don't see this happening. Did you see the Weeks take, and what do you make of it? And like, what goes through your mind when you see something like that?
Well, first of all, Kevin Weeks usually doesn't throw out something that he hasn't heard a sniff about. He doesn't just throw out something at random, but it sounded like he kind of did, and I've heard Crosby going to Colorado to play with McKinnon would be a great story. And then it just popped up that he would play with Stamkos, and that would be what a great thing. And then just playing it out, it goes back to that. Are we a winning team? Or can we put together some wins on this road trip that you say, okay, now we're in a position, we're back in the mix, and we think we have a team that can strike and make a run at the cup. Then you go, wow, Crosby would really help, wouldn't it? I mean, that would be a game changer. And they need a guy, they need a centerman to help support Ryan O'Reilly and that top 6. And so, would it be a great fit? Sure. I think Sidney Crosby's a great fit on any team. He's still got a lot of juice in him. And so it's fun to talk about. I just don't know how realistic it is. I think you'd have to get into the mind of Barry Trotz and kick that around. But it certainly is an intriguing take.
Do you think Trotz is going to roll his eyes if I ask him about it on Tuesday?
I'd love for you to ask him. I think it's, I think Barry Trotz is the guy I don't think he looks down on anything. I think he would look at that just like he'd look at everything. I think he takes in all the possibilities and tries to do the best for his team. And that would be something, though, wouldn't it? Well, that would be a story.
You can tell him tonight, like, I'm going to ask it on Tuesday, but whatever. Hal Gill with us. Last one for you. Hal, you're part of the now FanDuel Sports Network crew.
Yes.
What did you guys make? I'm sure you guys saw the same thing we did about the Amazon Prime edition here. I'm sure you probably hear as much as anybody being on the broadcast of people saying, hey, I love the team and I love the job you guys do, but it's harder to watch. How, I guess, exciting is this or how big of a deal is this to you guys?
Yeah, I think that's the regional sports networks are going through a bunch of changes, and I think that's one of them that kind of bridges the gap where you have a huge network like Amazon Prime that takes in and just getting eyes on the show and getting eyes on the Preds. I think it's huge. So I'm not really sure what to make of all the changes, but it's a changing market, and I think it's something that's going to be exciting. I think it's an easier get for people, and that's the bottom line, is whatever is easier for people to get eyes on the Preds and on the show, and hopefully it's making people happy, because we're just trying to figure it out now. And I know there's a lot of talks and a lot of changes, but hopefully this settles down and the dust will settle and everyone can just enjoy the game.
Exactly. Hal Gill, as always, tonight, Predators Edmonton. Hal, great stuff. Appreciate it, and we will see you soon.
Sounds good. Thanks, Jared.
Yep. Hal Gill on the program. So I was reading what Alex Daugherty wrote at the Tennessean. Basically, according to his projections, and I'll take his word for it, the Predators have to win 2 out of every 3 games the rest of the way in order to make the playoffs. That's what Alex came to. What I think is more likely is that the Predators go on a streak where they win like 8 in a row. And then it's like, okay, you win 8 in a row. It digs you out of the 5-game hole you started with. And now you're right back in the hunt and blah, blah, blah. I got to be honest, though. I want this to work. Like, I want, this to be, see, you did this. We told you it'd click, and there it is, clicking, and it's working. It's like what I told Hal. I just think it's going to click too late. And that's my big worry. By the way, on the Amazon front, we are still waiting on a price. So apparently, this is the deal. Amazon Prime is going to allow you to subscribe to the FanDuel Sports Network, which has the games. That is period, solid, whatever. So if you're like me, tonight, I'm going to be watching Washington and Philly on Amazon Prime. You'll be able to pay a certain amount, probably monthly, maybe yearly. I don't know. You'll be able to pay a certain amount and it'll give you the games. And then you can watch that channel via Amazon Prime the same way that I'm watching Washington and Philly tonight on Thursday Night Football. We don't know when this is going to drop, although I think it's going to drop around the first of the year. And we don't know how much it's going to cost. And again, I think how much it's going to cost is the number one point. I mean, that's the number one point of everything, but I think that's the number one point of all of this. And how much it's going to cost is going to be what decides whether or not this works. If they price it at $9.99 a month, so $10 a month, and let's say you can buy it for $100 for the year. If they do that, I think they'll get a ton of people who subscribe. If they do what I think they're going to do, and they charge $29.99, $30 a month, if you charge $30 a month, nobody's signing up for this. Because, again, everybody can sign up for the Bally Sports app now, and people aren't signing up for it. So the price point is the single most important thing, and the only thing that gives me hope is the Braves put out a statement today saying that they're all in on FanDuel Sports Network, again, which used to be Bally. It's technically Diamond Sports. That the Braves are all in on Diamond Sports. And the reason that this gives me hope is because the Braves kind of had them by the cojones. And I don't think the Braves would do something where there was no shot that it would work. And if they get charged $30 a month, people aren't paying that. So I'm hoping that it's going to be $9.99 a month. Brandon in Nashville says, awful announcing on Twitter, said $6.99 a game for the network. So that's something they came out with this week, is that if you want to buy a single game, it's $6.99. I mean, that's just bull crap. No one is paying $6.99 for a game. Have you ever, again, these are regular season, NHL, NBA, MLB. If they were like, hey, it's $6.99 to watch the Titans on Sunday, yeah, I might pay it. $6.99 to watch a regular season basketball game? I mean, I don't even know, who would pay? Who would pay $6.99 to watch a game because they care enough about that one game that they wouldn't pay the $30 a month if you're already going to get overcharged for all the games? That I don't know. 615-737-1025, Stillman and Company, 1025, 106 again. Predators Game Day is presented by TJ Anderson Homes of Benchmark Realty, online at tjandersonhomes.com. Get your house seen, heard, and sold with TJ Anderson. I actually talked to TJ yesterday. The Predators are taking on the Edmonton Oilers tonight at Rogers Place at 8 o'clock Central Time on the FanDuel Sports Network and right here on 102.5 and 106 The Game. Edmonton 8-7-1. That's good for 17 points. The Predators 5-9-2. The Preds official podcast is next. Pre-game starts at 7 with Chase McCabe. And my final thought, presented by TJ Anderson Homes of Benchmark Realty, gotta win. Not a overtime, gotta win. We'll see you tomorrow too.